anyway? What the hell is this music all about? And what friggin' time is it anyway?
It's
Pod
Podblast
Blast
time!
Flashback
Flashback
4.2.
4.2! Nostalgic Podblast Flashback. Continuing on, I was on YouTube covering The Fugitive and the Invaders, and actually it stopped halfway between the show and actually an opportune spot right in the middle. So I'm glad. I wanted to separate this so that the Fugitive fans after the fact, after we're live, can go back and listen without having to hear the Invaders part and vice versa. So this worked out pretty well. So continuing on, we're going to pick up right where we left off, and I want to talk about the Invaders. The Invaders was a winter replacement show for ABC that started in the middle of the 1966 to 1967 season, debuting on January 10th, 1967 on ABC. And it aired on Tuesday nights from 8:30 to 9:30. And then it was moved later in season 2 from 10 to 11 on Tuesday night, the same night. Now, what the Invaders is about, it's about an architect named David Vincent who's driving on a business trip in the middle of the night, and he needs coffee. He's about to fall asleep. And he sees a sign for a diner, Bud's Diner. And he pulls in, it's about 3 in the morning or so, and it turns out the diner's closed. So he lies down in his convertible Ford Galaxy, I might add, to take a nap. And lo and behold, he sees an alien spaceship land. And that's where the drama begins. It's a great tale of paranoia, cover-ups with the government, and basically these aliens want to take over the Earth. And what's unusual about them is oxygen is lethal to them, so it begs the question, why the hell would they want the Earth? They're from a dying planet, but maybe we're the only habitable planet nearby, and so they're going to have to change our atmosphere to suit their needs in terms of their survival and wipe us out like bugs. One of the most durable science fiction ideas is the one that questions the very reality of what we see around us. Could there be aliens in our midst? Architect David Vincent certainly thought so. He had witnessed the landing of a flying saucer and stumbled onto an incredible secret. One moment, we have a call coming in. Nostalgic Podblast, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, it's BK again. I don't know what's going on with your audio tonight, buddy. On the mic right now, I can barely hear you. I got my audio turned up all the way, and I can barely hear you talking.
All right, well, I'll make an adjustment. Thanks for letting me know. This has been a real problem tonight. Jeez. It's like the gods are not with me tonight. I think that's better. I just made an adjustment. So I'm going to continue on with the synopsis of The Invaders. He had just witnessed the landing of a flying saucer and stumbled onto an incredible secret that scattered throughout the world's population, disguised as humans, were an advance guard of alien creatures from a dying planet who were preparing to conquer the Earth. Convincing his fellow citizens of this was no easy task. So Vincent went on a one-man crusade to obtain solid evidence and warn mankind of the dangers it faced, while trying not to fall into the clutches of the aliens. Intensifying and identifying the enemy was tricky. But some did have a mutated fourth finger or a pinky. And when you saw that crooked pinky, you knew there was an alien in your midst. Of course, also the aliens had no pulse or heartbeat because they had no hearts. So they had a different physiology than human beings. For the first few months of the series, Vincent fought a lonely, largely undercover battle, eventually feeling that he was a bit too lonely to be plausible. The producers gave him some allies, though, in season two, a group of 7 others who were experts in their own fields who had learned the secret as well and wanted to help. His chief confidant, who joined the show in December 67 in an episode called The Believers, was Edgar Scoville, the head of an electronics firm. He was very wealthy and had a lot of resources to help David Vincent. Could it really happen? Well, you never know. But actor Roy Finnis, in a bit of promotional hype released by the ABC press department, claimed that he had actually seen a UFO during the filming of the series. Then again, maybe he is one of them. So that's how the show started. So let's continue on with the radio portion of tonight's show, when we talk about the history of the Invaders. And I'll show some more props. I have a lot of collectibles and props for the camera for YouTube Live that I want to show you guys that pertain to the Invaders. So let me pull this up and we will continue where we left off. I'm sorry about all the problems tonight. This has just been ridiculous.
They're here. The Invaders, January 10th, 1967. That was the premiere of The Invaders. And how about that music? I love that note of dread. That
Actually, The Invaders is a great show. I'm surprised it didn't last as long.
No, but thankfully it's back on the air after many, many years. MeTV, National Digital Network, is airing The Invaders as part of their sci-fi Saturday night lineup at midnight Eastern time, and I think midnight out west, maybe 11 o'clock
3 a.m.
Central, but it airs weekly, and they're started the second season right around
I wish they
Labor
would
Day.
put it on earlier, though.
Yeah, I kind of dig midnight. I like midnight on Saturday. I think that's cool. I think that
A lot of people
fits
don't
the
stay
show.
up. I don't stay up past midnight. It's rare.
Well, I applaud MeTV for bringing it back.
Yeah, I do too. Don't get me wrong.
All right. Now, The Invaders was part of the original lineup of the Sci-Fi Channel when it launched in 1992. And it ran to, I think, 93. And then it came back in 2008 just for a couple episodes on Sci-Fi. And that's been it. So I applaud MeTV for bringing it back. And they have a hashtag thing. I watch it live with the other sci-fi freaks out there like myself. And then they have a hashtag MeTV Invaders. So we tweet each other fun facts about the show and everything. So
now, MeTV does a great job on promoting their product.
They sure do. And
they have excellent promos.
We've got some cool surprises and some audio I think you'll like pertaining to the show and Quinn Martin, including we are going to debut some music, a rock version of the Invaders theme that someone I know in Seattle.
Am I going to like that?
Oh, you're going to love it because my friend, Mr. Gilman, we'll call him. He's out in Washington State. And back in 2002, he did a rock version of the Invaders theme, and he sampled clips from the show with Dominique Frontier's music, which is a segue.
His music.
Here's a segue into Dominique Frontier and who he is. This guy scored a lot of films back in the 60s as well as TV shows. He worked on 12 O'Clock High.
My favorite.
The World War II drama. and Outer Limits. He left the Outer Limits to do 12 O'Clock High for Quinn Martin.
But you know, I like the Outer Limits music, but it was just too weird. It was just it didn't have that orchestra sound like 12 O'Clock High. Of course, it's a different show. I understand. It was just kind of, but
Yeah,
I didn't
12 O'Clock High had a grandiose musical
right.
score.
I didn't care for the Outer Limits.
It was
theme.
bigger than the TV screen, let's just
Right.
say. Well, Dominique Frontier actually had scored the music that would wound up being on the InVaDeRs as the main title theme that you just heard. What it was on the Outer Limits, Joseph Stefano, the producer, was going to spin off the Outer Limits into a new show called The Unknown. And they conducted and created and produced a pilot in 1964 that became a regular episode of The Outer Limits when ABC passed and didn't pick up The Unknown as a series. And The Unknown was an hour-long anthology similar to Outer Limits, but it was more in the horror genre. And David McCollum, who the next season would be a star of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., was a star in the first Unknown segment. Now, I want to play the music to The Unknown. This is by Dominique Frontier. This is the original music that would be adapted to the InVaDeRs main theme because it never aired except for the episode of Outer Limits. So, Al, would you please cue up The Unknown? And let's play that entire intro to the unaired pilot of The Unknown.
There is a fear that is unlike all other fears. It has a special clammy chill, a deadly gift for inspiring deeper, darker dread. It is the fear of unopened doors, of locked rooms, of bends in lonely roads. It is the fear of the phone call in the dead of the night, of the stranger you recognize, perhaps from a nightmare. It is the fear of the unexpected, the unfamiliar. It is the fear of the unknown. Murder, madness, and other lurking horrors are the raw certainties that await you in the depths of the unknown. And no switch of time, no twist of plan can cancel your meeting with it. For some night, in some blind panic, you will venture into the world of dark reality. And on that night, you will keep your rendezvous with the unknown.
I love that. That's why I wanted you to play the entire clip. Sorry, folks, a little long. It's
that's a better opening than the Outer Limits.
It was a fantastic pilot. And it was Daystar Productions, same production company as I mentioned that did Outer Limits. And like I said, they recycled that as an episode of the Outer Limits, and they retitled it The Form of Things Unknown when the Idiot Suits at ABC passed on the Unknown as a regular anthology hour-long show for the 1964 to 65 season.
Yeah, they were dumb.
And that's part of the reason I believe, and according to the book I read, The Outer Limits, 1988, why Stefano left the production. I mean, he couldn't believe it didn't get picked up. It was so well done. So it's on the Outer Limits DVD set, but it's been re-edited slightly. But that was from and I'm sorry about the audio, folks. That's the best we could get. That was a transfer from 16 millimeter film. So sorry about the noise. Getting to the Invaders. If you noticed also in that narration, that's another reason I want to keep it in. They used some of that in the Invaders opening, where it talks about lonely country roads, lonely roads, and which was in the introduction of the Invaders. David Vincent at Bud's Diner or Kelly's Diner. If you've seen the pilot, you know what I'm talking about. The aliens are good about covering their tracks and getting rid of all the evidence. These aliens have a horrible true alien form. It's very slug-like. And there was one episode
where you saw them.
There were actually two where you saw the true form of the Invaders.
I wonder why they didn't show them more often.
Budget cuts.
Just to keep you kind of like guessing.
Yeah, for suspense and budget reasons, I'm sure. Because the makeup man that showed the true aliens form created that effect, John Chambers, he went on to do Planet of the Apes, and he had worked on some big productions. He did a Lost in Space 1967, where they did multiple Dr. Smiths played by Jonathan Harris. So he designed the masks. He did a mold of Jonathan Harris's face, and Jonathan was claustrophobic, so they had to put straws in his nose so he could breathe. And anyway, but that's another story for another podcast. By the way, that you're listening to the Pop Culture Podblast. That's our new name, thanks to Tom Williams.
The nostalgic Podblast.
Tom will
actually
be with us next time.
Yes, and he's working today at a big concert festival here in Atlanta, Georgia, called Music Midtown at the moment, or he'd be with us. So he'll be back next time. We should maybe give him a buzz later. We'll try to give him a
call later.
Yeah, give him a call later. So the star of the Invaders was Roy Thinnis, and he had been on a show called The Long Hot Summer.
He had the bluest eyes of any person I've ever seen.
He looked like Paul Walker, God rest his soul, when he was young.
Well, he was a good-looking man, but he did. He had the bluest eyes I've ever seen.
And Paul Walker was the star of the Fast and Furious movies, for those that don't know.
They did kind of favor him a little bit.
They looked so. I always wanted them to do an Invaders big screen movie with Paul Walker playing David Vincent.
They can't do it now.
Can't do it now because he passed away in a tragic car accident. But Roy Thinnis is still with us as we tape this podcast.
Well, actually, on the DVD set, he introduced each episode.
He did, and those were recorded in 2008. He did a 1-minute introduction to each and every episode, and he's wearing a bow tie. He actually looked pretty good. He still looks good to
quite
this day.
Sophisticated.
Yes, but he was on a show previously called Long Hot Summer, which is like a nighttime soap, and he was on Peyton Place.
That was based on the movie, The Long Hot Summer.
And he was in a color 4th season episode of The Fugitive called Wine is a Traitor. Look it up. Traitor, Tritor, Traitor. And he played a bad dude. He was mowing down Hispanic workers in a field. Like his dad owned a winery. And he was tired of these illegals. He took out a rifle and just mows one of them down. I mean, it was disgusting. But that's in that episode of The Fugitive. But we're not going back. We're going forward with the Invaders. The Invaders, there were a few products made for merchandising. Not many, but Aurora made some model kits. And they really, because it was such a serious show. This was not a kid's program.
Let me ask you a question.
Please do.
You weren't around when the Invaders was on television.
Correct.
I was.
Okay.
I'm a little bit older than you. How did you come to like the Invaders if you weren't around when it was on television?
Because I discovered it thanks to Good Times Home Video back in 1988.
Oh, okay.
They released a dozen episodes. By the way, there's 43 episodes.
Yeah, but what made you want to go buy the video?
Because I was all into Quinn Martin's The Fugitive. I mentioned in our
but you weren't around when The Fugitive came on either.
I talked about this, Al. Remember, I said I watched A&E in the 90s when they aired reruns of The Fugitive.
Right. Okay.
And so I got into that. So I went. There was a place called Suncoast Home Video. They used to be in shopping malls. There was one in Cumberland Mall.
I remember.
And I'd buy VHS. So there was one at Gwinnett Place Mall. There were shopping malls in the Atlanta area and probably all over the country. And they're no longer in business because of technology evolving and Netflix and. No one, of course, obviously watches VHS anymore, or even DVD for that fact.
I do.
Now it's Blu-ray, 4K. But back then, they released those dozen episodes, including the pilot Beachhead, and I just fell in love with it. I thought it was great.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was great. And Diane Baker had played an alien in the pilot of The Invaders called Beachhead. That's the title. Before she was in The Last Fugitive. The Last Fugitive aired just a week before the season 2 premiere of The Invaders. So
Right.
chronologically, she had already played an alien, and she was so beautiful and good. She's still alive, and she's done a lot of roles that you've seen her, but maybe you didn't realize it was her. She was in the Cable Guy comedy. She played Matthew Broderick's mom in the scene where they're playing Password. Anyway, I digress, but she's been in a lot of stuff, Diane Baker. And there was a lot of publicity stills, and there's a long version of the pilot that they released on the DVD. Thank goodness. There's an extended version of the pilot Beachhead. It's on the last disc of the set. And I remember, Al, I gave you the Invaders box set for Christmas last year.
Yeah, you did. I
It was my
appreciate
Christmas
that.
gift to you. No, I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I'm just letting you know that there is an extended version of the pilot, and it's really, really cool because there's some neat artwork in it of the alien ship. What I mean is the character of David Vincent is an architect, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a cut scene in the extended pilot, not in the aired version, where David Vincent has drawn a sketch of the alien ship that he witnessed at Bud's Diner. And in the opening of every episode, they flash back to the pilot, how it all began. The nightmare that began for David Vincent was when he was on a business trip, and he was tired. He was looking for a place to get coffee. Now, these days, everything's 24/7, but in 1967, shot in 66, late 66, fall of 66, the character was just driving around exhausted. It's 4 a.m, and he sees a sign for a diner. So he pulls in, but damn it, the diner's closed. It's out of business. So he decides, sorry, it's a family show. So he decides to take a nap. So he lies down in his car. And what was he driving? A Ford Galaxy, I believe. Ford
Ford sponsored most of the cars in all those TV shows.
In Quinn Martin shows specifically.
Yeah, if you look at even the Fugitive, they're all Fords. If you look at the Invaders, they're all Fords, which is okay.
Yeah. So the ironic thing is, I don't know if this is on purpose. I believe it is a Ford Galaxy, but I could be wrong. Some of you folks out there, look it up on YouTube, the Invaders opening, and tell us, write to us, comment, was that a Ford Galaxy he's driving? I don't know. But anyway, he falls asleep, and then he sees this glowing red light, and it wakes him up, and he looks, and holy smokes, here comes an alien saucer. And I love that special effect. Look, this is before CGI. For 1967, that was a really cool designed ship, and the effect was excellent. I'm wearing an Invaders t-shirt, by the way,
That
right
you
now.
are.
Black and white one.
You got a green one, too.
Uh-huh. And I just love the show. It's so dramatic, intense, and people die, and
like
invested.
the Fugitive, it had a lot of stars in it.
It did. And
A
future
lot of
stars.
stars.
Gene Hackman is in a season 2 episode, The Spores.
We watched that last week.
That's a cool one. I mean, and you had Dabney Coleman in a couple episodes, who went on, of course, to play the scumbag boss in 9 to 5, the Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda comedy. He played the boss, Mr. Hart. But before that, he was a serious actor before he got into comedies.
He's
And he
also
did
in
Buffalo
television
Bill.
shows, yeah.
Buffalo Bill, correct. That was a starring vehicle. But he was in a couple Invaders episodes playing different characters. One thing that was good and yet bad about Quinn Martin was he would reuse the same actors again and again, as I mentioned previously. But what I didn't like is when they would bring an actor back and they play a totally different character. Like there's an episode with Lyndon Childs playing David Vincent's brother, a key episode in season 1 called Wall of Crystal that Edward Asner was in, and Burgess Meredith. It aired on MeTV not too long ago. Well, Lyndon Childs returned in season 2, but not playing Vincent's brother. He's playing an entirely different character, an executive at an advertising agency, in an episode called Task Force. And excuse me, that just kind of threw me because he played that key character, Vincent's brother. Anyway, I just dislike it when they bring someone back who played a notable role as someone else. I wish they did another story with Vincent's brother because he didn't die in the other episode.
Well, I mean, that doesn't really bother me. I mean, as long as if it's a well written show and they're good. I mean,
very good, and
you enjoy it for what it is.
Another good guest star was Suzanne Plachette, and she played an alien invader in 2 episodes, including the 3rd episode, The Mutation. And she is just like the title says, a mutant alien.
Was she in the TV series Macmillan and Wife?
No,
Who
you're
was
thinking
that?
of St. James. Susan
St. James. Okay, I got it.
Right. But no, she was in the Bob Newhart show.
That's right. Suzanne Plachette. Yeah.
That's what she's best known for. But she also had been in The Fugitive, and she was, I think, a gal pal of David Jansen's, but that's another story. But I always liked her. I like her raspy, sexy voice, and she was so good in The Mutation. At any rate, getting back to The Mutation, she plays an alien who's developing emotion. See, the aliens, they're really unique. They don't have a pulse or a heartbeat. They don't bleed because they have a different physiology, entirely different form than human beings have.
And they have a messed up finger.
And some of them have a mutated fourth finger, or pinky, as we like to say in the vernacular.
Well, that's how they noticed it. They were invaders.
Well, David Vincent caught on to that very well. But
Yeah.
later on in an episode with Sally Kellerman, the original Hot Lips in the MASH movie, and she was in a couple Outer Limits episodes, but she was in an episode called A Labyrinth with Ed Begley Sr. And there was some speculation of whether or not she was an alien based on a scar around her pinky. Vincent suspected she had some corrective surgery to hide that mutated fourth finger. And all it is the finger sticking out. You know, it's at an awkward angle and it doesn't move or bend. The pinky doesn't bend.
Yeah.
It sticks out. It's not bending. It's like, so another unique thing about the aliens, and I love how they developed the show over time. Different things were revealed, different traits about the aliens, including the fact that when the aliens die, this membrane is pierced by a bullet or a rattlesnake, whatever. Once it gets pierced, the oxygen is lethal to these aliens. That's why they have to regenerate themselves every few days or hours in these regeneration tubes to maintain their human form. Otherwise, they'll die. But when that membrane is pierced by a bullet or anything else, they burn up and vanish. And that wasn't revealed until the third episode, The Mutation, that aspect about the aliens. But just a great, well-written show. It should have lasted longer than it did. 43 episodes wasn't enough, but I think MeTV is smart to air it weekly because that way you almost have a full year before it recycles again to the first episode.
If they have rights to all the shows.
They do. They're airing season 2 now. There's no reason why they wouldn't. I mean, they would pull it if it weren't getting ratings, I would imagine, but no, they can air them all. A unique point of fact about the prints that MeTV is airing, they're actually airing the old World Vision prints that the Sci-Fi Channel aired. And what's noteworthy about that is that they're time compressed. What that means is the frames per second are sped up slightly, so they don't have to edit as much content out to air commercials.
And the only time you can tell, because we did that when I worked at Turner.
Time compression.
We time compressed it. Is every once in a while during the music you can tell.
You can.
If you listen real close, the music is going a wee bit fast.
And some voices sound like Mickey Mouse, you know? Like someone that has, an actor has a deep, robust voice. You hear them, they sound a little high pitched.
One of the shows that
compressed.
when I worked at Turner, that we used to time compress, and it was my job to time, was Perry Mason. And we time compress those shows.
But my point about that is it doesn't bother me that MeTV is airing the non-digitally remastered for DVD versions.
They still look great.
They look okay, but they would have to edit more out. And these stories, the Quinn Martin stories overall, and all the shows, even the ones I don't care for, like The Streets of San Francisco or Barnaby Jones, is that, or Ellery Queen, that was one of his, right? Ellery Queen Mystery. I don't, is that the stories are so tight, it's hard to edit them. Otherwise, you're going to edit out a key point of the story. So I think that was smart of MeTV. But one funny thing, there's an episode called The Watchers that aired this past week as I record this podcast on MeTV at midnight, Saturday night. And this isn't MeTV's fault. It's a distributor's fault. They, for some reason, played the end credits to another episode. So different actors are getting credits on The Watchers. It played the end credits of The Enemy.
Well, that happened when they dubbed the digital tape or the tape of the show.
Videotape then. It would be videotape.
Whoever distributes the show, was it?
It's CBS Paramount now with the DVDs, but it was World Vision.
Well, World
which
Vision
was an Aaron Spelling
company. They just screwed up. I mean, it happens. It happens.
And the weird thing though is The Watchers. Now this is the music geek in me talking. Don't yawn. I know it's kind of boring, but there was a unique orchestration of the end title theme of the Invaders for the season 2 episode, The Watchers. And so while we were live tweeting #MeTVInvaders, I'm like, hey, make sure you tune in to watch the end credits. It's a different version of the end title theme, only heard in The Watchers. Well, then I see, wait, they're playing the end titles of The Enemy, which is an episode that'll air in 2 weeks. And by the way, the production order, of course, varies from the aired order we talked about earlier. And The Enemy is the first episode shot for season 2, and it's the one that
I
reveals the true
guarantee you
alien
people
form.
watching that didn't know the difference. Except,
No, but
you know,
there were some instances where it didn't make sense, the aired network order versus the production order. Like in The Watchers, a device is revealed where the aliens can spy on anyone they want. It's like a giant round monitor screen. And in the Saucer episode, which aired second on ABC, the Watchers aired third, you saw that device and it wasn't explained what it was, where this little telescope thing comes out of the saucer ship and the aliens can see, oh, crud, humans have found our ship. We got a problem here. Red alert, red alert. We got to kill them off. And these aliens, speaking of killing off, they had this weapon. They had several weapons. They had, of course, the traditional vaporizing laser gun, which they had a different design in season 1 versus season 2. It looked a little bit better in season 2. They made it more compact and smaller, conceal and carry. But they had a death disc, I call it. This was a horrible weapon where when placed on a human's neck, it would cause a cerebral hemorrhage or a heart attack. And it would kill a human instantly if it got a good grip on them. And there'd be this horrible sound effect. And it would kill them. It was introduced in the episode 2 called The Experiment with Roddy McDowell. That was the first episode you saw this death disc. So, but you know what? I've talked way too much. I just
you have a motor mouth.
I get so excited about the Invaders.
And
Why
it's
don't we
true.
let the star of the show, Roy Thinna, speak for himself?
Well, I got involved with the Invaders while I was filming The Long Hot Summer, which was also an ABC show. I was going through a great period of good fortune. I did 2 years on General Hospital, the beginning of General Hospital, and I campaigned. I, in fact, went to my agent. I said, they're auditioning everybody in town for the role of Ben Quick. I said, all of the fan magazines are saying I look like Paul Newman, who played the original role. Wonderful actor. But I said, why can't we take advantage of that? I said, I've been doing everything I'm told. I've been working steadily and working hard at it. And I'm getting tired of paying for the stationery here in the office. Will somebody try to agent this thing? Why can't I get a test? Well, within 4 hours, Marty Baum is the man's name, famous agent. God bless him. He had a screen test for me. He said, you're right. I did this Long Hot Summer, which was filmed in black and white when color was making a big splash. And I thought we'd take up collections to have it developed in color. I mean, we were working outdoors. We had Lot 3 at MGM. It was a gorgeous place. The town of Tara, all of Tara was built out there on Lot 3 at MGM. And now they kept it in black and white, and it seems to be a death knell for the show. You're going to do it in black and white. Everything else is in color. And long about episode 15, my agent came to me and said, Quinn Martin wants you to do a series for him. Well, Quinn Martin was a much revered producer and had many successful shows, as you know. And he said, but it's science fiction. And I said, no, science fiction. You'll have the death knell forever. You do science fiction and forever people are going to be talking to you about aliens and flying saucers. He said, Quinn wants you. I said, oh, really? It's about what? Flying saucers? He said, right. And I was a skeptic in those days. Didn't take long to convince me, but I met with Mr. Martin, and he was so impressive. He had writers present. They were having a writers' conference, in fact, and no one had ever invited me to a writers' conference. It was awesome in those days. And they were talking about the concept, and Quinn Martin said, I don't want a lot of special effects. I don't want to. He said, this is a study in paranoia. And now he's talking to me, the actor. I think, okay, that I can get behind, not just chase movies. But, well, the picture painted there between the writers and Quinn Martin was of this wonderful adventure series, and with minimal silliness, because there were a few corny sci-fi shows on the air at the time. And I still didn't want to really do the sci-fi thing, but things got better and better, and I had no alternative. And I'm so pleased that I did, because it was quite an adventure and has been ever since. I committed. Quite simply, he's an architect who's on the road, traveling from one commission to another, and too tired to go on, he pulls off the road to take a nap. And suddenly, life changes completely for him. He is witness to the landing of a spacecraft. He sees beings disembarking who look like us.
Well, that is what made the aliens so unique. They look like all of us.
That's correct. It was created by Larry Cohen, who sadly passed away this year. And it might have been 2018. Anyway, he passed away recently.
It was his idea.
Yes.
To have the aliens look like humans.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And he did a really good job with this. And I think he did a movie called It's Alive. It was kind of a takeoff on Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, that wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But there were a lot of shows inspired by the Invaders in later years, like the X-Files. Chris Carter, he has admitted that he was inspired by that. Now, before that, there was a miniseries on NBC called V, and then a follow-up, V, The Final Battle. But it was very highly rated. It did very well in the ratings, the original miniseries in 1983. It was directed by Kenneth Johnson. And I met Kenneth Johnson in 06 and 07. I asked him, I said, hey, did you ever watch The Invaders? And he goes, The Invaders? What's that? Kind of defensively. What's The Invaders? I said, it's an old Quentin Martin show. Anyway, I don't buy, but it's possible that Mr. Johnson never heard of The Invaders, but V was very similar to The Invaders. Anyway, I digress.
Do you like The Invaders as much as The Fugitive, or about the same?
I like about the same. It's kind of apples to oranges. I'm a sci-fi nerd.
That is true.
A comic book nerd. I guess my sympathies, or I'd say I'd find The Invaders a little more enjoyable, actually, but I'd still love The Fugitive. I mean, my gosh, good stuff.
It's a great show.
Now, we are going to debut a rock version of the Invaders theme, and then we'll close it out unless we have a phone call from a friend of ours. But I want to play something that my friend, Mr. Gilman, in the state of Washington State in 2002 put together. This is an awesomely mixed. Crank it up. The sound is incredible. This has both classic Invaders music, classic clips sampled, and then at the end, it concludes with a rock version of the Invaders theme. It's about 3.5 minutes long. So sit tight, grab something, and crank it up.
The Invaders. Alien beings from a dying planet. Architect David Vincent. Disbelieving world, disbelieving world, disbelieving world, disbelieving world.
A creature from another planet.
They have taken human form. The nightmare has already begun. Architect David Vincent.
What if I told you Lewis Dunn is a creature from another planet?
Disbelieving world, disbelieving world. David Vincent has seen them. It began with the landing of a craft from another galaxy. David Vincent knows the nightmare has already begun. Architect David Vincent.
We're being invaded by beings from another world.
Don't be funny, Vincent.
You know what you saw. What you want to believe is up to you.
The Invaders. They're already begun. The nightmare has already begun. The nightmare has already begun. They've taken human form. David Vincent has seen them. From another galaxy, the nightmare has already begun. The nightmare has already begun. Alien beings from another galaxy. Alien beings, a creature. A creature. Alien beings from another galaxy.
Architect,
A creature.
architect David Vincent.
Tate died in a truck that was disintegrated by a spaceman-like crash. Disintegrated. Disintegrated.
The nightmare has already begun. 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 Dying planet. Dying planet. Dying planet. Alien, 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 alien. Alien beings from a dying planet. Their world. The InVaDeRs. David Vincent has seen them.
What if I told you Lewis Dunn is a creature from another planet?
Architect David Vincent.
We're being invaded by beings from another world.
They have taken human form.
You know what I've been tracking down? Invaders from another planet.
Don't be funny, Vincent.
The nightmare has already begun.
That's it.
I don't know what to think
I
about
love that, man. Is he recording, man?
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for tuning in. I want to mention that the narrator of the InVaDeRs was William Woodson, and if the voice sounds familiar, he also narrated the opening to the Odd Couple TV show.
I have some of those on film.
And he was an actor.
Yeah.
You've seen his face. So,
Well, listen, before we go, we've kind of gone long today. I hope people don't mind.
it's a podcast. Who cares?
I know. Anyway, we have our buddy Tom on the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, our good buddy, Tom Williams.
He's on the line.
I'm live here at the Music Slick in Midtown with the mass of humanity. And you know what? You know what the most fun part is, Chance?
What's that?
There's a midget here, and his name is Nigel. I'm not kidding you.
He likes
I'm not kidding you.
midgets.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy. If I see him, I'll bring him over, and I'll put him on the air with us on the podcast. It'd be great.
That's
Nigel,
okay.
He's a great guy.
Sounds good. As long as you promise to not use that politically incorrect term, midget. We are little people, sir.
I could. You know why? Because he would kick me in the shin, and I would go down.
Or he'd kick you in a worse spot.
Yeah, because that's what they do. They kick you in the shin, and then they laugh. They laugh like that. Oh, I'm thinking Little Columbus. I'm sorry. Was that wrong, too? I probably shouldn't have said that.
You shouldn't have said that.
Anyway,
No.
it's great to be with you guys on the podcast. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. This is like the daggone week in a row. So I've been working. You know, the Weather Channel.
Well, you need to take some time off.
Going on. There's another one coming. Humberto is going to turn into a hurricane, they think. And then I got Music Midtown this weekend, directing all these stage shows. So I've been busy, and I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay. You're making money. That's all that counts, right?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do, so I can pay bills and just like everybody else in life. You know, we got to do that.
And take us out to lunch.
I'm sorry I missed the InVaDeRs show because that's a great show to talk about. Roy Dennis and all those folks out there, and all the plastic kits they make. War, I think it was the War.
That's right.
The spaceships and everything. And it would have been great to chime in as much as possible, but alas, I had to work and I apologize.
Well, you make it next time, okay?
Speaking of it,
next time. Well, you guys take care. We got another act coming up, the last act of the night. I'll be out of here around 9 o'clock tonight. So you guys are sitting there in your nice, cool air conditioning studio at an house, and I'm in a trailer, but at least it's got air conditioning.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
who's the last act of the night at Music Midtown?
The last. Let's see, we just had Mo up.
Mo.
She's a Danish performer.
Was Curly with him too, and Shemp?
Was Curly and Shemp there too?
Yep. Yeah. Curly was here, but it was actually Curly Joe.
Curly Joe. Ooh.
But anyway, the last act is a band called
Block.
And they've got pyro and all this sort of stuff. So we got to move some cameras, do some stuff so they don't get burned up.
Like an invader when they die. They burn up.
I'll tell you this. It smells like, oh, that's nice. It smells like one big giant pot fest here. I'm not kidding you.
You're gonna get a contact high like in History of the World Part 1.
Yeah, that's it.
And zap.
You guys go. You have a great end of your podcast, and I'm really sorry I couldn't be there with you, but I will be back soon. I promise.
All right. We'll see you for
we'll
the
hold
Monsters
you to it.
podcast. All right. Monsters and Addams
If you
family.
believe it. All right, y'all take care now.
Okay,
Later.
Bye. Well, I have to say that Music Midtown was back in September.
September 15th is when we recorded that. We are back live in the Oxygen Financial Studios here in Lilburn. This is WTZA Talk of Atlanta. Phone number is 678-996-1776. The question we're asking is, what's your memories of The Fugitive, The InVaDeRs, or do you believe in alien beings from outer space? If so, we want to hear from you. 678-996-1776.
Now, Tom, do you believe in aliens?
Well,
I know you believe in midgets.
I'm sitting beside an alien right now. But
That's true. If you can see Chance with his skull cap on.
Because he's got a skull cap on. Yeah, he's scary, actually.
he is.
No, do I believe him? You know, as a kid, I remembered telling the story to my siblings that I think it was a dream, but I just remembered an alien's crawling through the bedroom window, and there was and it left a mark out in the yard of the spaceship, a little ring thing. Mm-hmm. But my sister later told me, no, that was a swimming pool. So anyway, I had dreams that there were, but I don't know if I believe in them or not.
You know, I don't either. I like to think it's a fun thing to maybe believe in, but I'm not sure.
I just haven't seen any visual proof.
No, I haven't seen any proof.
You know, I really haven't.
Maybe Chance has.
Yeah, maybe he has.
Yeah, I've had several visions, but unfortunately I was under the influence of LDS, but that's another story. No, but I do believe, seriously, I believe that there is life out there. I do.
Well, we don't know. But, didn't they have the Voyager travel and it's still traveling and they're trying to find different,
yeah, we have the Mars rover. I mean, I like this idea of a space force that's been in the news.
I like that.
I don't think that's too far-fetched. I mean, we're following Star Trek's lead, right?
That is true.
Now, I want to mention, getting back to The Fugitive, I talked about MeTV airing the very first episode of The InVaDeRs tonight at midnight on MeTV. Well, they're also running The Fugitive. And The Fugitive airs, great time slot, not 2 a.m. Sunday night into Monday morning.
That's why we have a DVR. We can record it.
Exactly so. One of your favorite Quinn Martin shows we haven't really talked about in detail is 12 O'Clock High.
I love
stop the tape. Just want to quickly mention that MeTV has moved the Invaders from midnight to 5 a.m. I said 3 a.m. earlier, 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. So it's on really early in the morning, Saturday into Sunday.
12 o'clock high. Heroes and Icons runs that tonight at 11. And I set my recorder up to tape it because I'm usually in bed by that time. But
Series
I love,
recording.
you know, of all the Quinn Martin shows we talked about, I think 12 o'clock high is probably my favorite.
And the music was by Dominique Frontier, who did
Great
the Outer
score.
Limits season
Yeah.
1, and he did the Invaders music.
That's right.
Tonight's episode's really good. The pilot of the Invaders on
Invaders.
MeTV, and it's channel 17 on Comcast. And let's see. And I think I ran through this, but channel 32 on ATT Uverse or Dish or DirecTV. Channel 32 is MeTV. They have a great lineup.
Now, we talked about Quinn Martin, and that's not his real name.
We discussed that in the pre-recorded.
Right.
Tom has some information about
but he
Quinn Martin.
passed away when?
Well, he passed away in 1987,
Wow.
and he was. Let's move this microphone over here. He was only 65 years old.
That's young.
That's really young.
But
some,
you know,
some of us in this room are almost 65, and some of us in this room.
All right.
You don't know who I'm pointing
Okay,
to.
all right,
Might be a
that's
little lower
okay.
than 65.
Yeah, but those people didn't take care of themselves. You know, I
That's
try to
true.
take care of myself.
But his original name was, and I think Chance mentioned it earlier, was Erwin Martin Cohn. Erwin
Wonder where Quinn Martin came from.
It sounds like he came from Spain.
Agent?
He came from his mama.
Yeah, I guess he had a good agent that did that.
Now, William Conrad went on to star in Cannon for Quinn Martin, and he was a narrator of The Fugitive with that great booming voice.
Yeah, but did you know that also that he was the original voice of Matt Dillon in the radio series Gunsmoke?
I did not know that.
Old time radio right there. He was the voice of Matt Dillon. Did you know that, Al?
Well, didn't he also voice something on Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Yes.
Yes, he did. Now,
Yeah.
you guys were both wincing and making faces when I played that original Invaders rock music.
Yeah.
I love that, man. But I thought that was really cool. But it's funny watching these two cats in the studio. Just they were like, "Is it over yet? Is it over?"
That's true. And by the way, you say Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah.
By the way, just this week in Los Angeles, they are bringing back the famous Rocky and Bullwinkle statue, which was on Sunset Boulevard. It's made of fiberglass.
I saw that online. It's,
They've refurbished it and everything. I remember.
Why did it disappear?
But it was Jay Ward's property, and there was some Jay Ward stuff there, and that's all gone. There was a House of Blues to the right of it, as I recall. And that's gone now. Of course, I was there this past week, and I drove right by, and it wasn't there. And you used to, as you round that corner, you used to see the big giant Rocky and Bullwinkle statue. But it returns to all you Rocky and Bullwinkle fans.
I used to love Rocky and Bullwinkle.
12 o'clock high, by the way, is also airing. And we talked about that. 11 o'clock tonight on Heroes and Icons, channel 232 on Comcast.
On Comcast.
You like the star of that show, the first season,
Robert Lansing.
And he quit the show after season 1.
He was great.
Well, see, I heard the reason he quit the show, and this was a rumor back then, was because he had throat cancer. Now, was that,
Well, he was
there
a
any truth to that?
ferocious
Was there
smoker,
any
but
truth to
no,
that?
I think he was a little difficult to work with. And so, but you know, Paul Burke took his place. And I like Paul Burke. He was good too. But I just like Robert Lansing.
You know what I love about the show? I love these memories. And I seriously hope that anyone out there that has dementia, sadly, listens to our show and wakes up for a minute. I'm dead serious. I hope that we're invoking memories with these clips and stories that take you back to happier times. That's what this show is all about. It's pop culture. It's nostalgia. It's a time capsule. And we're going to have shows about collectibles with experts coming up. We have some awesome shows coming up. Really excited about them.
Now in 1970, you're talking about Quinn Martin. That's
right.
You know, and in 1978, a group of investors purchased wholly owned QM Productions, and subsequently sold it to Taft Broadcasting.
Taft Broadcasting.
Yeah,
who do they own?
I don't know because Chance knows.
Taft sold out to Sony. Taft had the rights to the Jeffersons and those sitcoms of the 70s like that. And Taft, The Facts of Life, Different Strokes. And now Sony owns that property now.
And the last official use of the QM name was broadcast in 1983. So in other words,
What show was that?
Well, it doesn't really say, but it says it was the last time it was used, and it was put to rest at that at that point in time. So there you go. I mean, there's a little bit of history.
Well, you know, in some shows, I remember they used to say a QM production, and then some said a Quinn Martin production.
Correct.
They changed it.
And you
I
know
think-
who voiced that, don't you?
I think it was, no, tell me.
There was announcer Dick Wesson. Insert joke
Love his
here.
voice, yeah.
But Dick Wesson was the guy that said, the guest stars in tonight's episode,
Right.
Gene Hackman. Tonight's episode, The Spores.
Yeah.
and he also, if I'm not mistaken, he voiced the Naked Gun series on ABC, which had a very brief run of like X amount of it was just one season. But he also did that because it was very Quinn Martin-esque, you know, where they killed the star.
Let me ask you something.
At the very beginning of the
You
show.
know, we talk about these great old shows, and we have all these other channels now carrying these great shows, and so, but TV today, you don't have that quality. You really don't. I mean, the stuff it airs today, I bet
Netflix has some good programming.
10 years from now, and people won't be talking about it.
Yeah. You're right. But how about that one-armed man on The Fugitive? That was Bill Raich, and he literally lost his arm in World War II fighting a fire. And then he got into acting, you know. I guess having one arm gets you a leg up when it comes to casting.
Yeah, but he didn't have much of an acting job in it. It was just kind of like...
At first he didn't have any dialogue, but
Right.
then he grew. He took acting lessons, and he grew as a performer. But he really didn't do anything after he was so typecast from playing the brutal killer of Helen Kimball in The Fugitive. But yeah, those are airing on MeTV, as I mentioned before. Got to give a shout out to Gold Medal Popcorn, concession equipment and supplies. People spend thousands and thousands of dollars making intricate home theater systems in their homes. But what do you do about popcorn? These guys sell, starting at $500, a real popcorn maker. Al, you have one in your home, do
I
you
do.
not?
I have a 4-kettle machine. I love it.
And it makes the whole house smell like popcorn.
popcorn. It
Kids
does.
love it. You're like the hit of the neighborhood. Go to this website, gmpopcorn.com, and talk to Shelby. She's in Atlanta. They're located right down the road from Six Flags, and they have a super sale, the factory super sale coming up March 4th and 5th. Their showroom is incredible. And they also sell for your church, for your school, for your home, cotton candy makers, snow cone makers,
Pretzel
popcorn
machines,
makers, all
pretzel-
that stuff,
yeah, just
brand
all
new.
of it.
And they distribute the popcorn and the snacks right to your door.
Yeah,
and
they ship.
we got a case of popcorn for your home popcorn maker for like $25.
Yeah.
How many packs of popcorn are in there?
36 packs in
There
a
you
case.
go. And they're a great operation. So shout out to Gold Medal.
And who eats all the popcorn?
I do. That's why I buy the popcorn, and I
Chance
also
buys
eat it
the
all.
popcorn because he eats all of it.
So, Chance, I know you're looking through the 2019 catalog.
Yes, they have a great catalog. It's free. They're located at 8145 Troon Circle, Suite D as in David, in Austell. Give them a call, 770-434-7704. Ask for Shelby.
Ask for Babs. That's remember the Universal logo at the end. Ask for Babs. Remember off Animal House?
No.
Come on.
I don't
Ask
remember
for
that. I
Babs.
don't remember that.
Yeah.
Thank you, God.
Yeah. Do they have clown supplies there at the Gold Medal?
No.
Only when I'm there because I am a clown.
Oh, but well.
Couple quick shout outs. I know we got to wrap up the show of episodes you should check out of The Fugitive. Check out Moonchild. That had Murray Hamilton in it. You know from Jaws, who played the mayor.
He
who
was
didn't
the
want to
mayor.
shut down the
Yeah,
beach.
Jaws, yeah.
Great episode with June Harding playing a retarded young woman who's 19, and there's a killer killing young women. Anyway, we got to roll. Thanks for tuning in. What's coming up next week, Al? Next week, we have a special show. We'll be here live to introduce it and do a wraparound at the end to take your calls and just elaborate on what we discussed. But next week,
Yeah, we'll be
Play
back
it.
next week at 2:00, and we're going to go out of here. We'll talk to you next.
play the clip.
I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm talking. Can I finish?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
All right. Next week we'll be here at 2:00, and another episode of the Pop Blast right here. Right.
Next week.
All right. All right. We'll see you next time. Are you old enough to remember this? If you remember that, tune in Saturday at 2 p.m. to the Nostalgic Pop Culture Pop Blast. This week it's the Munsters versus the Addams Family. Which Ghoulish family is your favorite? Join us for classic clips and interviews, plus your phone calls. That's the nostalgic pop culture pop blast. Saturdays at 2 p.m. right here on Talk of Atlanta, WTZA 102.1 FM, 1010 AM, and talkofatlanta.com.
Whether you make $50,000 or
There you have it. I just love the Invaders, and you got to see the second season episode titled "The Spores" with Jackman. It's a very tense episode. Oh man, I don't want to give anything away for those that haven't seen it. Wayne Rogers is in it before he did MASH. And he was a financial advisor. He's passed away, unfortunately, since then. Now, after the Invaders, Roy Thinnis and his wife, Lynn Loring, acted in a movie that was called Doppelganger about doubles. And Sylvia and Jerry Anderson produced it. And they went on to do UFO and Space 1999. For those watching on YouTube, I'm going to hold up a picture of the laser disc of that film Doppelganger, which was retitled for American release Journey to the Far Side of the Sun. It was a really, really interesting movie. It's somewhat rare, but you can find it out there. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. Universal distributed it in America, but Roy was a star of that with Lynn Loring, and she had acted with Roy in the episode Panic from season 1 of The Invaders. And who else is in that is Robert Walker Jr., who Star Trek fans know as Charlie in the episode Charlie X. And in The Invaders, Roy Walker Jr. played a diseased alien who has a virus, and he has the frozen touch of doom. And when he touches any living creature, eventually it's frozen to death, including a dog. There's a terrible scene. I kind of think John Carpenter used this in Halloween, where Michael Myers kills the German Shepherd with the knife. He freezes a German Shepherd in that episode. And it's really horrible because I'm a dog lover, but it was a really chilling, no pun intended, scene. But The Invaders for a long time was so rare. I remember the Sci-Fi Channel picked it up in 1992 when it launched on cable. It was one of the first shows that it aired from like 92 through 1993, I think to the end of 1993. There's only 43 episodes, and I'm really happy that MeTV picked it up. But after Sci-Fi Channel aired it at the end of 3, he didn't see it for a long, long time until maybe 2007 when Sci-Fi aired just a couple episodes, like for a mini marathon. And then eventually Aaron Spelling Productions obtained the rights to the Quinn Martin Productions, at least The Invaders, and they released them on DVD. And I've shown those on camera, the DVD sets of The Invaders. And I think, actually, last time I checked, The Invaders is streaming on Apple TV. But again, MeTV airs it at 5 a.m. once a week for your DVR. And it's an over-the-air network that many affiliates in your local city carry. So check your local listings to see who carries MeTV. I know it's a CW subchannel here in the Atlanta area, and a station in Toccoa, Georgia, carries MeTV, meaning with digital rabbit ears, like old school TV, but with the digital version of rabbit ears, you could pick it up for free. As long as you have that digital receiver and that capability. But on Comcast cable, it's channel 17, because Comcast in the Atlanta, Georgia area, well, I know we're going out everywhere on YouTube, but if you're in Atlanta and you have Comcast Xfinity, it's on channel 17, and they pick up MeTV through the Toccoa, Georgia affiliate. So it's been nice being here. I'm sorry, we had a lot of audio problems with my board, so I apologize about that. Going to turn up my gain a little bit more just in case my audio is still low on the mic. And I have all sorts of collectibles in my collection. I don't have any props from the Invaders. I wish I did. That wasn't really something that could be marketed to kids because it wasn't a children's show. Now, there was the Aurora model kit of the saucer from 1968, and I have a reproduction of that I bought back in, 1997 for $15. It's in the background here, and I held it up for the camera. But you couldn't really market the death disc, as I call it, which is the device the aliens used that could cause a cerebral hemorrhage or a heart attack when placed on the neck of a human being. It was a terrible weapon. And Roddy McDowell was in an episode, the second episode that ever aired. But the exclusives that I promised, I want to mention, this is kind of important to any Invaders fans that are diehards out there. This is not widely known, the production order of the episodes, and it is somewhat significant if you follow the storyline. So I want to just quickly go over some notes about All right, season 1, the first episode and the pilot is Beachhead. I want to also mention on the DVD set and streaming on Apple TV, you must see the unaired version of the pilot titled Beachhead because there's a lot of extra scenes. It's over, I think, a full hour in length versus 51 minutes 30 seconds in length, and there's some key scenes that are cut. For instance, the architect David Vincent, our hero and the protagonist, he sketches out the alien ship that he saw when he was passed out in his car from exhaustion when he couldn't find hot coffee at Bud's Diner, which is renamed Kelly's Diner by the aliens. They always were really good at covering up their tracks and retracing everything. But he sketched because he's an architect, and I like the episodes where it showed him working, where David Vincent was earning his daily bread as an architect. And there were several. It was rare, but there were many episodes in which that happened. And in our last regular show, the Nostalgic Podblast, which airs live Sundays at 3:30 in our Facebook group, and then we put it on YouTube after, we had a tribute to African American comedians and African American TV and cinema. And I did mention this episode of The Invaders, The Vice, spelled Vise, and that was a great episode in season 2 with Lou Gossett Jr. as a human and Roscoe Lee Brown as an alien who is disguising as an African American. And they screw up because they don't realize this is according to the script. I'm not saying this myself, but the palms of the hands of African Americans are white or lighter. I'll just say they're lighter in color than the reverse side of their hand. And the aliens overlook that. And so one of the heroes, who is a black actor and black character, he says, "Oh my God, I've never seen a black man with a hand like that in my life, with the palm of his hand like that." And then there was another episode with the mob called The Organization in season 2 that was really tense. It was a really great episode. But I want to go over the production order of The Invaders. And this is just for the diehard fans. It's going to be kind of boring to anyone else that doesn't really care about the show. But why would you be watching anyway if you didn't care about the show? So here you go. The first episode, Beachhead, which aired January 10th, 1967. That was the first produced. That's the pilot. Then you had The Mutation produced second, and that aired third. And that had Suzanne Plachette as an alien invader who has a deformity. It's an emotional deformity. And the aliens want to stop her before she gives away the alien invasion. And that was the first episode where you saw an alien perish. And when their membrane is pierced, because oxygen is lethal to them, they have to regenerate themselves in these tubes every once in a while. But if they are shot, if they are cut, even if a snake bites them and pierces that membrane, then they burn up. And it's a great effect that holds up to this day. They glow red and just burn up and turn into a bunch of ash and soot. But in The Mutation, that was the first episode where David Vincent sees an alien burn up. And, but in the aired order, that was the third episode where that was revealed, but that was the second one produced. Then you had The Experiment with guest star Roddy McDowell, one of my favorite episodes, and it was right before he played Cornelius in Planet of the Apes. Then The Leeches, Genesis. The sixth episode produced was Vicar, and that had Jack Lord in it right before Hawaii Five-0 started. And man, that is just a brutal episode. I'm going to give a spoiler away. He plays an industrialist who's working with the aliens, and he's on a power quest. He wants to work with the aliens to make slaves of human beings. And then he would be like, this is according to the story, he would be the leader, or the master, as they say, of the slaves, the human slaves of all colors, creeds. And if you're human, you were going to work under this guy. But Vincent gets back at his character, Jack Lord's character, because Jack Lord, in his quest for power, sacrifices his wife, played by Diana Hyland. And so at the end, the aliens put that death disc on his neck, and the acting by Jack Lord is so chilling. He's going, and like he can't speak because he's had this massive stroke. And it was just so well acted and so creepy. Anyway, continuing on the list, this is kind of important. The Condemned was the last episode that aired on ABC for season 1, but it was the 7th one produced. It was produced after Vicar, Vikr, Vicar, and before Nightmare. Then Quantity Unknown, Doomsday -1, The Betrayed, which guest starred Norman Fell 10 years before he played Mr. Roper in Three's Company. Then you had The Innocent with Michael Rennie and Dabney Coleman, a young Dabney Coleman, best known
as Mr. Hart in the movie 9 to 5, this male chauvinist pig boss. And he's great in that. He plays a human United States Air Force soldier who wants to work with David Vincent because he has discovered that there are aliens. He shot one and he burned up right in front of him. So he witnessed an alien death, Dabney Coleman's character. But The Innocent was a great episode where the aliens brainwash David Vincent, our hero. And that was the 12th one produced, but it was the 10th one that aired. Anyway, then you had the Ivy Curtain, where the aliens have infiltrated a university, an Ivy League college, and they're training aliens on human characteristics so they can blend in to society. Then you had Storm. That was an episode where the aliens have like this weapon that spins and causes hurricanes and tornadoes in South Florida called Storm. Really good episode, very tense. Then you had Panic that I talked about earlier with Lynn Loring at the time. Roy Thinnis is the star of The Invader's Wife, and Robert Walker Jr. is the diseased alien with the virus that causes freezing deaths. Then you had Moonshot, and Wall of Crystal was the last episode produced of season one, for season one, that had the character, our hero David Vincent's brother, introduced, who was a doctor, and he was played by Lyndon Childs. Who they brought back in season 2 is an entirely different character. I can't stand that when Quinn Martin Productions would bring back good actors. Had no problem with that, but I didn't like when they would bring them back to play different roles after they'd played a notable role. That was a big continuity gap in my mind. Now, season 2 began production with The Enemy, and that is one of my favorite episodes because you finally see the true alien form of the alien invaders. Unlike V, which I think was kind of a copy of The Invaders in the 80s, it was produced in 82, aired in 83 as a miniseries at first with the lizard aliens, where you saw their true form often in V. Unlike that, in The Invaders, it was very rare. Now, we saw a glimpse of the alien form in Genesis in season 1, but in The Enemy, you really saw the alien true form up close. And Richard Anderson, who went on to play Oscar Goldman in The $6 Million Man, played the deadly alien Blake, who needs regeneration. If these aliens don't regenerate, they will die, and they'll also, in many cases, revert back to their true grotesque slug-like form. And the makeup of the aliens was sort of recycled from The Outer Limits, like music that we played earlier in the show for The Unknown, which was a failed spinoff of The Outer Limits that they aired as an episode titled The Form of Things Unknown. They reused makeup from a couple episodes. The Man Who Was Never Born, Outer Limits, season 1, shot in 1963 with Martin Landau, the makeup he wore, and then the makeup in another early season 1 episode of Outer Limits. It escapes me the title of that, Outer Limits. I know it. It'll come to me later. I'll mention it before we sign off tonight. So The Enemy, that was the first one filmed, but yet it aired way later in the run on ABC TV. But that was, I guess, meant to be the first episode you saw. That would have been a killer season 2 opening where you saw the alien's true form. But as it was, that's not how ABC chose to air it. So next you had The Watchers in production order, the second episode shot for season 2, guest starring Shirley Knight, who you know from As Good as It Gets many years later. She was an Oscar-winning actor, and she played a blind woman. And David Vincent tries to recruit her. And also in that episode is Kevin McCarthy, who had been in Twilight Zone and the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And he played an alien and a human in that episode. But what was interesting about The Watchers is there's all these creepy alien devices that were introduced in Invaders. Like they had a hypnotic crystal that could hypnotize human beings, and it spun, and it was really, really cool. And I think we first saw it in an episode called The Betrayed from season 1 that I talked about with Norman Fell. And the aliens, they're interrogating Dave Vincent. They hold his eyes open. It's like that movie with Mel Gibson, Conspiracy Theory. I think Richard Donner, who directed that, borrowed that, and it's really creepy how they're holding his eyes open and forcing him to look into that hypnotic device from The Betrayed. You know what? I don't think it was The Betrayed. It was the Genesis was the first episode with the hypnotic device. I knew that. All right, Genesis, which was the 5th one that aired. But anyway, I digress. You saw all these devices introduced, and in this episode, The Watchers, there was a spying device introduced. It was like a screen, and there was like a camera, and the aliens could spy on human beings. It was really creepy, really Orwellian, like 1984. But the dumb thing is, ABC aired an episode called The Saucer
before the Watchers, and they just they show the device, but they don't really explain what it is, which it was fully explained in the Watchers. That's hence the title, the Watchers, right? So because the network pick and chose episodes at random, and sometimes it's because of the completed special effects, like with the old Star Trek show, episodes would air when the special effects were completed. But same thing with the Invaders. But I think in this case, this is my opinion, I think it was just a network suit, just randomly selected episodes that they thought would be better ratings winners. I don't think it had anything to do with special effects. But it might have with the Enemy because of the makeup. But no, you know what? I know not, because that was on set. That makeup was on set. That wasn't an optical that needed to be done in post production. So I stand by my original statement. So continuing on here, so the Enemy was produced first, then the Watchers with Shirley Knight, and then Condition Red was the third produced, but that was the season premiere. That was the first one that ABC aired, and it was kind of like War Games. You see this shot of like a big map of the USA, and long story short, there's a dramatic scene at the end where NORAD sees that, oh my God, there's like 30 or 40 alien saucers approaching. When there was a reel, the aliens were replacing a computer reel or computer tape, so it would mask and confuse like the radar. And so Vincent replaces the correct reel, or I mean, the reel is replaced, and then on the screen, pew, red alert, like an instant red alert happens, and it reminds me of the movie War Games. Anyway, so that was the episode, and it's kind of not a great episode, but Antoinette Bauer was in it, who was a really a good-looking actress at the time, and she played an alien in that. And man, there's a creepy scene right at the opening. I don't want to give it away. Condition Red, and that was the season 2 premiere. Yet it was the third one filmed that year. And actually, that episode, Condition Red, aired days, actually a week after the final Fugitive, the big ratings winner on August 29th, 1967. This aired September 5th, 1967 on ABC. Then you had, I said The Saucer, and that guest stars Anne Francis, Honey West, and Vincent captures an alien saucer. It's very dramatic, and they did have a full-size ship, but it was just like in Star Wars. Anyone that knows Star Wars, the Jawas Sandcrawler, they didn't really build the full mock-up, just the legs. Same thing with the Alien Invader spaceship. They had produced the crew, just the legs, and there was an optical to complete the top. And so The Saucer really was a great episode where Vincent captures an alien ship, and Dabney Coleman returns to play a different character, another good guy that helps David Vincent in his quest to expose the alien invasion. Then after The Saucer, The Prophet was shot, and that had Pat Hingle as an alien masquerading as a televangelist type, where he's performing miracles. And when he starts glowing, because I told you how I mentioned how the aliens, I didn't tell you, it sounds so overt, but I mentioned that the aliens, need to be regenerated every once in a while. And so with the Prophet, right before he needs regeneration, he would give a sermon where he would sort of glow at the end and trick people into thinking that was some sort of miracle. And that was a good episode with Pat Hingle playing that alien. The next one produced after The Prophet was Valley of the Shadow, which guest starred Ted Knight in a smaller role as an alien. Then The Spores with Gene Hackman, one of my favorite episodes. Then The Trial with Don Gordon. Dark Outpost, which guest starred Dawn Wells. Right after Gilligan's Island had ended its 3-year run, she guest starred on The Invaders. And of course, Dawn Wells was Marianne Sumner's on Gilligan's Island. And she actually shot Super 8 footage on the set of The Invaders at the Vasquez Rocks, California area, where 1,000 Westerns were shot and Star Trek episodes. And I know Barry King of BK on the Air, he actually went there with his wife in 2017 and shot a funny video there. Anyway, this is kind of interesting. Entertainment Tonight had done a retrospective on Gilligan's Island, and the announcer, I don't think it was Mary Hart, I think it was after she retired, but someone said, I think it was a male actually, said, and here's footage that Dawn Wells shot with her camera on the set of Gilligan's Island. And I'm yelling at the screen going, no, that's The Invaders. You can tell you don't see anyone in the shot of the other actors that have anything to do with Gilligan's Island. So anyway, you had that episode, Dark Outpost, and then Summit Meeting parts 1 and 2 were filmed, and that brought back Michael Rennie again as an alien leader. And I have a film print of that with the original commercials. I didn't mention a bunch of the others I have with the original commercials from the original air date of ABC TV. The 12th one film for season 2 was Labyrinth, guest starring Sally Kellerman before she was Hot Lips in the movie MASH. And then the 13th film was The Captive, in which an alien invader is captured. And see, Vincent's always the hero. David Vincent's always trying to capture an alien because they don't have a pulse or heartbeat. And he wants to bring that alien before a medical doctor to have them examined so there's proof this is not a real human being. And when they're x-rayed, like their bone structure is different. There were several episodes, easy for me to say, that revealed their different bone structure. And so they captured an alien played by Don Dubbins in The Captive. Then you had a pivotal episode, The Believers, the 14th episode film for series season 2, with Carol Lindley, who was a former playmate. And that was a pivotal episode where a team is formed to fight the aliens. And they're all experts in their field. Some are wealthy, some are just geniuses. And there was a formidable foe for the alien invaders. And these were all, of course, human beings. Then you had The Ransom, which was filmed next, which had Karen Black in it. And then Task Force, which is my least favorite episode. I can't stand that episode. And that's the one where Lyndon Childs came back to act in the show, but as a different character than Vincent's brother. Then The Possessed was filmed, Counterattack, The Pit, the organization where Vincent actually has to team up with the mob because the aliens accidentally stole their shipment of heroin, thinking it was wreckage of an alien ship that Vincent was trying to capture. So the aliens captured heroin, and so the mob want their drugs back because it was millions of dollars of heroin, and Vincent wants to get the wreckage of the alien ship so he can prove to the world that the alien invaders are here. So that was the 20th one film for series 2, series season, however you want to say it. Some people say series, some say season. Then the 21st episode shot was The Peacemaker, and then The Vice was the 22nd episode shot with Lou Gossett Jr. I told you about. And then The Miracle was filmed with Barbara Hershey, a young Barbara Hershey playing a tramp. The S word, I won't say it. I was going to say, SLUT, but that's really what her character is in this. But Barbara Hershey was gorgeous in it, very young. And Edward Asner, as he was called those days, acted in that episode. By the way, he was also in the last episode shot for season 1, Wall of Crystal, with Vincent's brother I talked about as an alien. But in this one, he was a human. And I've got that one on film too, The Miracle. Then you had The Life Seekers with Barry Morse, who played, of course, Lieutenant Philip Gerard in The Fugitive. But here he was a good alien. And this actually served as like the final episode. If you watch The Life Seekers, you'll see what I mean. I don't want to give anything away for those not familiar with The Invaders. And I highly recommend you check it out. It's very dramatic. It's not a lame show at all. It's very serious. It's not like Lost in Space that went silly or campy. Very serious. And The Life Seekers, I think Quentin Tarantino did a tribute to a key moment in this episode because there's a suitcase that have 1 million facts about mankind. And Barry Morse's character, who's an alien, wants to stop the invasion and save Earth and save humanity because he says there's value here. These are intelligent beings. And so when the suitcase opens, it glows. There's a glow effect. And it's like the suitcase in Pulp Fiction. And the reason I think there's a connection also, and I always thought that before this movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was shot and released many years later, after Pulp Fiction. But when I saw Pulp Fiction, it reminded me of that scene in Invaders. But in that movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino showed in the set, in many scenes, there was like an Invaders billboard and an Invaders bench, like a bench you'd sit at waiting for a bus at a bus stop. And it said, tune in to ABC Tuesday night for the Invaders. So obviously Quentin Tarantino digs the Invaders too. And I really think that was a tribute to the suitcase in Pulp Fiction. And Diana Muldaur, I don't know how you pronounce it, but Star Trekkies and Trekkers know who she is. She's a really good actor. She was really pretty in that. And she also played an alien in The Life Seekers. And she's like a good alien. And when you see the ending, it does sort of conclude the storyline. If only it aired last, that would have served as a finale. So we're almost done here with the episodes. The Pursued aired next, and Suzanne Plachette came back. And of course, she was in the Bob Newhart show years later. She was in several Fugitive episodes. She was a gal pal of David Jansen's, the star of The Fugitive. And she played an alien. It was kind of a hybrid remake of
Panic I told you about with Robert Walker Jr., Charlie X as a diseased alien, and the Mutation that she had guest starred in, where she played an alien with a problem, with a mental problem, with an emotional problem, because aliens aren't supposed to have emotions. And it was a pretty good episode, but that's always a bad sign when a show, especially one that's only 2 seasons old, starts remaking and partially remaking older episodes. That's never good. And also in that episode was Will Greer before he was Grandpa in the Waltons, and ironically in the pilot, Grandma Walton was in it, Ellen Corby, in the very first episode, Beachhead. So you got a little Waltons connection there before there was the Waltons. But, Inquisition was the final episode that was produced and the final episode that aired. And, that the title of that always makes me think of that scene in the Mel Brooks classic movie, History of the World Part 1, The Inquisition. I don't know. So the series pretty much ended unresolved, even though that episode did have an ending. But in my mind, the final episode is The Life Seekers, which I have on film. Now, I do want to play before I sign off an interview with Roy Finnis, if I could, and a couple other clips. I don't know how long I've gone here, and hopefully, I know no one's watching live. Probably it's so late as I do this, but I want to play a couple clips. So let's hit the clipboard here. And again, I apologize about the audio. I may have to redo this, and Facebook had issues with YouTube 2 times in a row, 2 weeks in a row that I've tried the nostalgic Podblast Flashback. By the way, I want to give another shout out to BK on the Air. That's just a great nostalgia show. It's on WBHF. It's on TuneIn. It's on YouTube as the BK replay. It's on fistfulofradio.com at 8:30 in the morning, Saturday and Sunday. And then after us on Fistful of Radio at 5 p.m., 5 to 6:30 p.m., Saturday and Sunday after us. And we're on from 2 to 5 p.m. on Fistful of Radio. And we'll continue airing there. And on our regular show, I don't know if I'm going to do on 4th of July or not. Haven't decided. I have plans, and maybe I'll do a show Saturday evening. I don't know. But I wanted to do a 4th of July nostalgic Podblast pertaining to nostalgic music and movies that pertain to the 4th of July. I talk a lot about TV and movies. I need to branch out about music. The reason I don't talk about music much is because of music rights problems. I'll get dinged. It's such a pain in the butt to play songs. That's why I play a lot of TV songs, because for now that's permissible. But rights are always a concern when you do a podcast or anything live on Facebook or YouTube. You want to get clearance ahead of time. So with that said, I'm going to hit the clipboard, like great clips, the cheap haircut place. I shouldn't say that because anyone could be a sponsor, right? All right. First of all, I played a lot of the music by Dominique Frontier. We talked about that. And we talked about how the narrator of, I want to play one quick clip of this. The narrator of The Fugitive went on to narrate, and his name's William Woodson, the regular narrator. He narrated The Odd Couple. Here's a little bit of The Odd
Couple. On November, Felix Unger was asked to remove himself from his place of residence. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would return to her. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his friend Oscar Madison. Several years earlier, Madison's wife had thrown him out, requesting that he never return. Can two divorced men share an apartment without driving each other crazy?
So that's William Woodson. I'm having some serious audio problems. I apologize, folks, for that. But I do want to play this interview with Roy Finnis. And let's actually check that. Let's play a couple promos of the InVaDeRs that are on the DVD set. Oh, got a call. Hang on a second. We'll get back to these clips. This one aired after the very first episode. Hang on a second. Let me see what's going on here. The Nostalgic Podblast, you're on the air.
Hey, I'm out here listening.
Great. It's good to hear from you, Barry. I guess you heard me plug your show.
I did, and I appreciate that. You know what else you've inspired me to do is I'm watching a lot of TV shows growing up. For some reason, I didn't get to watch The Fugitive or The InVaDeRs. I saw some of the reruns of The InVaDeRs when the Sci-Fi Channel would show them not too long, many years ago, but I never
got to see the whole series. So now I think I'm going to go back and watch The Fugitive and The Invaders. I was always a Quinn Martin fan. I saw some of the other shows, but I missed those growing up as a kid.
Excelente, man. And I think I figured out the audio problem. Can you believe it? A little too late. I figured out what I was doing wrong, but anyway, I digress. We've had audio all over the place tonight, and that's my fault. Operator error.
David Vincent's
Well, that happens. You can't help that sometimes. It just kind of happens. You know, I want to give out a shout out to William Conrad. What a legend that guy was. And you mentioned a lot of things that he's done, and on the rebroadcast, the rewind you guys had from your show, Tom had mentioned that yes, he was the original Matt Dillon in the Gunsmoke radio play, which was great. And his voice is unmistakable. And I don't know whether you knew this or not, but in the early 80s, I think the late 70s, 79, 80, 81, Filmation on CBS did a new Lone Ranger animated show, cartoon about Lone Ranger. And William Conrad did the voice of the Lone Ranger on that cartoon, but he was credited as Jay Darnock in the credits. Darnock is his last name. Conrad spelled backwards, because there was a stigma of, at the time, he thought it would hurt his career, even in 1980 or 81, of doing cartoon voices at that point. So he didn't want his name on the show, is the article I read. Do you believe that?
Wow, that's really strange. And his brother, Peter Graves, was in the episode Moonshot of the Invaders. Anyway, I digress. And that was right before Mission Impossible. Did you know that? Did you know James Arnaz? I know you're talking about William Conrad, but I'm saying you mentioned a moment ago the star of Gunsmoke, James Arnaz. Did you know his brother is Peter Graves?
Yeah, they're half brothers.
Right. Well, they call each other brothers, but yeah. And anyway, Peter Graves was in an episode Moonshot. It's a pretty good episode. Anyway, go and Joanne Linville was in it, who just died. Joanne Linville, who was in a Star Trek episode, the Enterprise incident and Fugitive episodes. She was in that episode as well.
Well, it's cool that James Arnaz was in the TV show Gunsmoke, but I thought it was great that William Conrad did the voice of Matt Dillon in the radio play, because his voice was just fantastic. Now, Peter Graves and James Arnaz voices were very similar, because you're right, they're half brothers, but their voices, if you ever listen real close, they have similar voices when they speak.
Yes, they do.
But I couldn't believe when I found out that William Conrad did the voice for, because I knew it when I was a kid. I'm like, it sounds like William Conrad, the guy that plays Cannon, doing the voice of the Lone Ranger, and it was, but it was credited under another name. I thought that was wild.
That is wild. I love little anecdotes like that.
Well, it's great. That's Jake and the Fat Man. You talked about that. They actually, I remember when Cannon was on, he was trying to lose weight or something, and I read an article where the exec said, no, part of your appeal is you're overweight. Don't lose weight. So they were actually wanting him to eat instead of lose weight, like they do for most people in Hollywood. You know, like, oh, you're too fat, you need to lose some weight, you're too big.
Come on, pig out.
Yeah, they're like William Conrad. They didn't want him to lose the weight because they think that was part of his character. Yeah, that was great though. But he was always eating on Cannon. He appreciated great food on Cannon.
I bet he did. Prime rib and all the good stuff. He didn't trim that fat. No, he ate the fat. It's kind of like.
He ate the.
It's kind of like the Facts of Life. You're talking about the opposite of Hollywood. They want people to lose weight. I always felt bad for the Facts of Life girls because they called them the fats of life. But I digress.
Oh yeah, they would. Lisa Welchel, who is great. You can follow her on Instagram or Twitter. She's got a great page everywhere.
And she got a great show on MeTV, Collector's Call, that I like. Anyway, and she was a Mouseketeer.
Yeah. She was quoted a lot of times saying that happened to her on the Facts of Life. And I thought that was crazy. Yeah.
How rude.
They want me to. They don't care where I lose weight or gain weight on the radio. I don't know why, but they don't care. They told me they don't care. It was his weight. Yeah.
He had the best voice, though. I could never do that. He narrated a little bit of Fall Guy and that Trauma Center. Nobody knows what that is, but Trauma Center, he did the opening, and I admire his voice. He had a great voice.
He had a few great appearances on the Dean Martin specials too in the '60s. He was a really funny guy too when he was on Dean Martin. He could show his comedic side.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, a QM Quinn Martin production, I don't think the guy ever had a flop. Anything Quinn Martin was attached to, it always did well in the ratings, was very successful. Maybe the Invaders wasn't as successful as people think, but it wasn't really a flop. I don't think it was considered a flop by any means. It still is talked about to this day. And my dad was a big fan of the FBI in the 70s, and I didn't get to really watch it with him because it was really not a kid's show. So if I had to pick my favorite Quinn Martin show, I did go back a few years and rewatch and experience for the first time 12 O'Clock High. And 12 O'Clock High is a very well done television series. It really is.
Well, the network moved the Invaders against the Red Skelton show, so that didn't help.
Oh, that was terrible. That was a bad move.
It was on the same night, but they changed it to earlier, and it was head to head with Red Skelton.
No, you can't go head to head with Red Skelton on CBS. He was the king of his slot for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Benny Hill always said he was a big Red Skelton fan. He owed a lot to Red Skelton's faces he would make and Charlie Chaplin. So yeah, you can see all those influences in the lad himself, Benny Hill from England. Yeah.
We love Benny Hill.
Well, it's been a bit. I've been with y'all. I've been with you tonight, brother, on the way back on my drive, tuning in. So it's always nice to hear the replay. If you have to redo this one, that's fine. Who cares? But
I probably will. I don't know. I'm gonna play it back. I'm sorry I had audio problems before. That's all my fault. Gotta own up to it. Operator error.
Well, we'll see you Saturday morning there, buddy.
Looking forward to it. BK on the air, 10 a.m. to noon Atlanta time, and you can hear it anywhere your fine podcast can be found. Tune in and just go to WBHF.org, not .com, .org, and you could stream it live.
WBHFradio.org. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for the correction. That's it. I need to commit that to memory. WBHFradio.org. WBHFradio.org. Interesting station. They play music, really good music most of the time, but it's also a talk station. And Alan Sanders does the news 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, and then 7 a.m. to 10. And then you're on with him at 9:30 a.m. leading up to your show. You do the mind meld.
Local sports station. We carry local government meetings live, city council meetings, the Braves, Fox News. We're a hybrid station. We're just a little bit of everything. Yeah.
That's right. And I'm so glad you listened, and thanks for hanging with me. And man, learning experience, technical stuff.
Take care, brother, and
all right.
Have a good rest of your week, and get with me, and I'll see you Saturday.
I'll be there, brother. I'll buy the biscuits this week.
Buddy.
All right, bye.
You got it. All right, bye.
Barry King. So we talked about The Fugitive in part 1 of tonight's show. And I just want to play a couple more clips before I run out of time that pertain to the Invaders. I had to break it in half, and it wasn't something I want to do. YouTube went down. I almost said it again. I'll just say YouTube went down. I almost said YouTube went down on me. It sounds really, really bad. But here's a promo for the Invaders, and this one aired as a 30-second promo that aired right before the end credits of the very first episode titled Beachhead. And check this out.
In the weeks to come, David Vincent's compelling search will lead him to the Invaders.
Give him human form again.
Intelligent beings from a dying planet. Their objective, conquest of our Earth.
All right, you've seen the ship. Now let's get out of here.
Suzanne Plachette.
Again.
No.
Somehow, he must convince a disbelieving world that the nightmare has already begun.
You are a very foolish man, Mr. Vincent.
Be sure to see The Invaders every week in color on ABC.
And that guy that just said, "You're a very foolish man," David Vincent, that was an actor who Trekkies know, and Trekkers, I should say, would know for the following season is playing Strawn on Star Trek in the Pon farr episode Amok Time. He wanted T'Pring's affections from Spock. So let's hear another brief promo to the Invaders. And these are all on, by the way.
Hang on,
Where will the
terrifying. Let me explain what's going on here, because these are somewhat visual, but they can be found on the DVD sets of The Invaders and on Apple TV. I don't know if Apple TV streams the extras, but they're on the DVD sets that are very affordable. You can get the whole series of The Invaders, all 43 episodes, plus the extended unaired version of the pilot that I highly recommend. And all these cool extras are on there, like these trailers. Now, what's happening in this scene is this poor motorcycle cop is getting the death disc put on the back of his head, which induces a stroke or a heart attack, depending on how long it's on the person's skin. So let's play this trailer.
Where will the invaders strike next? What deadly weapons will their science create for the conquest of our planet?
If that happens, insects will attack from every point. Ted, what the devil are you talking about? I'm talking about antimatter. If this explosion happens, it would blow the Earth off its axis by several degrees. Doomsday comes today at noon. Then what do the invaders do?
Watch The Invaders every week in color on ABC.
In color, indeed. Here, let me play another promo for you. The Invaders.
The discovery of alien creatures taking life from our planet has shaped his destiny.
What kind of poison have you been feeding her? She knows what's going on at the plant, the regeneration chamber, the tubes you're manufacturing. Your source of information is a psycho, Sherry. His real name is David Vincent.
Jack Lord.
He's a mental case.
Alone, he must follow every clue, every slender thread of evidence.
How do you like her? Huh? It'll depend.
And all of a sudden, I saw this thing, like lights flashing everywhere.
Suzanne Pleshette.
Sure, it was some kind of frantic.
There will be no rest for David Vincent until he can prove to the world that an invasion has begun, an invasion that must be stopped.
Can you stop for a minute? I need your help.
It's an alien cop.
Climb in, Mr. Vincent.
Watch The Invaders every week in color on ABC.
Right on. So that was an alien masquerading as a policeman with a gun drawn on David Vincent. So I went over the rare production order of The Invaders. I'm sure a lot of people will be taking notes and playing this back because it's not on the internet. It's my research and it's absolutely accurate. I wanted to play, this is kind of interesting. Here's a little millennial. I don't mean to be so patronizing, but this is someone who appears to be in her early 20s reviewing, this is very brief, reviewing The Invaders. And it's kind of interesting to hear her perspective.
Everyone, for today's video, we're going to take a look at a show that ran from 1967 to 1968 called The Invaders. The series focuses on David Vincent, an architect who's driving home from a business trip late one night when, overcome with tiredness, he pulls over to take a nap. But he suddenly wakes to the astonishing sight of a flying saucer landing in front of his car. Completely bewildered and looking for an explanation, Vincent returns to the near-deserted town the next day to investigate. By the end of the pilot episode, he's uncovered an invasion plot. Aliens from a dying planet are infiltrating our world, executing an elaborate and cunning takeover. David Vincent becomes a one-man crusader, searching for evidence that will prove the legitimacy of his claims to an unbelieving world, while doing everything he can to wreck the aliens' plans. But the invaders are constantly one step ahead. Their control is widespread, and he's just one man. The show is often referred to as a study in paranoia, for the aliens look just like us, except that some of them have, as David puts it, an awkwardness about the hand, a deformity of the fourth finger. As he travels around the country investigating UFO sightings and other strange incidents, he doesn't always know who he can trust. The only person he can be sure of is himself, and by extension, he is the only one that we, the audience, can trust. David Vincent must walk a lonely, dangerous road, never able to get too close to anyone for fear the aliens will use them against him, and endangering his life in order to stop the invasion and save a world that condemns him as a crackpot. One of the series' greatest strengths is its earnest, compelling protagonist, played by Roy Thinnis, who, as the only character who appears in all 43 episodes, carries the weight of the show. Unlike a lot of other alien shows of the time, the tone of The Invaders is very serious, and it's largely up to Thinnis to sell us on the gravity of the situation, which he does with great success. David Vincent is relatable, likable, easy to root for, a regular guy who didn't go looking for any of this, but now that he knows, he can't go back to his old life. At times he gets discouraged and frustrated, but he never loses his humanity. There are others who learn the truth about the invaders who could be valuable witnesses and tell the world that he's not crazy or a liar, but they're so traumatized by their harrowing encounters that rather than prolong their ordeal by forcing them to publicly take his side, Vincent leaves them to recover and continues his fight alone. Speaking of fighting, I personally appreciate that he's not an especially great fighter. He's not
Yes,
bad,
he is. I
but
disagree. His
he
character
is
can
frequently
fight.
overpowered. Remember,
Nah.
he's an architect, not exactly a profession that calls for a lot of fistfights. He gets into a scuffle with aliens in nearly every episode, and he gets knocked unconscious several times.
He's a
which I
badass,
find
actually.
refreshing. Not that he gets knocked out, that's terrible, but that he remains vulnerable. He doesn't suddenly become all beefed up and macho, kicking butt all over the place. His hand-to-hand combat skills and marksmanship do improve as time goes by, but he's still more brains than brawn. Also, my mom and I appreciated that no matter how urgent the situation, he always takes the time to open doors for the ladies. What a gentleman.
All right, we'll stop that. Just want to hear the younger generation's take on the invaders. But let's get to that Roy Thinnis interview I promised you. Let's get to that right now. And this one also, here we go. God dang it. This one's also available.
Well, I got involved with the invaders while
on the DVD.
I was filming The Long Hot Summer, which was also an ABC show. I was going through a great period of good fortune. I did 2 years on General Hospital, the beginning of General Hospital, and I campaigned. I, in fact, went to my agent. I said, you know, they're auditioning everybody in town for the role of Ben Quick. I said, all of the fan magazines are saying I look like Paul Newman, who played the original role. Wonderful actor. But I said, why can't we take advantage of that? I said, you know, I've been doing everything I'm told. I've been working steadily and working hard at it, and I'm getting tired of paying for the stationery here in the office. Will somebody try to agent this thing? Why can't I get a test? Well, within 4 hours, Marty Baum is the man's name, famous agent. God bless him. He had a screen test for me. He said, you're right. I did this Long Hot Summer, which was filmed in black and white when color was making a big splash. And I thought we'd take up collections to have it develop in color. I mean, we were working outdoors. We had Lot 3 at MGM. It was a gorgeous place. The town of Tara, all of Tara was built out there on Lot 3 at MGM. And now they kept it in black and white, and it seems to be a death knell for the show. You're going to do it in black and white. Everything else is in color. And long about episode 15, my agent came to me and said, Quinn Martin wants you to do a series for him. Well, Quinn Martin was a much revered producer and had many successful shows, as you know. And he said, but it's science fiction. And I said, no, science fiction. You'll have the death knell forever. You do science fiction and forever people are going to be talking to you about aliens and flying saucers. He said, Quinn wants you. I said, well, really? It's about what? Flying saucers? He said, right. And I was a skeptic in those days. Didn't take long to convince me, but I met with Mr. Martin, and he was so impressive. He had writers present. They were having a writers' conference, in fact, and no one had ever invited me to a writers' conference. It was awesome in those days. And they were talking about the concept, and Quinn Martin said, I don't want a lot of special effects. I don't want to. He said, This is a study in paranoia. And now he's talking to me, the actor. I think, okay, that I can get behind, you know, not just chase movies, but, well, the picture painted there between the writers and Quinn Martin was of this wonderful adventure series, and with minimal silliness, because there were a few corny sci-fi shows on the air at the time. And I still didn't want to really do the sci-fi thing, but things got better and better, and I had no alternative. And I'm so pleased that I did, because it was quite an adventure, and has been ever since. I committed. Quite simply, he's an architect who's on the road, traveling from one commission to another, and too tired to go on, he pulls off the road to take a nap. And suddenly, life changes completely for him.
So you know the rest of the story. We've talked about it all night. Want to play another little bit? This is a nice little bio of the Invaders. So let's see here. Got it right here in my list of clips. And after it ended, after the Invaders ended, I mentioned this already, that Roy Thinnis in, let's see.
If you enjoy this
There we
video,
go. Whoa,
please
I gotta
remember
talk.
to subscribe.
I've got to talk over this because I'll get dinged for that music.
Click on the link below.
Get to that in a sec. When I mentioned Doppelganger that I mentioned earlier, right after the Invaders ended, Roy Thinnis and his wife Lynn Loring went to England to film Doppelganger, which means double. Like everyone in this world supposedly has a double, someone that looks just like you. You have a twin out there somewhere. And that was the premise of this movie, about two Earths, one identical from the other, but one that's backwards, like a mirror, like looking into a mirror. Everything's reversed. And it was a fascinating movie. Just want to mention a couple facts about Doppelganger really quickly. It was called Journey to the Far Side of the Sun in America, released by Universal. But it was filmed, it premiered in August 1969 in the United States. And in October 1969, it premiered in the United Kingdom. It was filmed, let's see, I just saw it, in early 1968, right after the Invaders ended. Doggone it. And it was for Jerry and Sylvia Anderson. Where did I see that? Well, no matter. Darn, that was an interesting fact, I thought. I love learning. Here it is. It was filmed between July and October 1968 at Pinewood Studios on location in England and Portugal. And it's just a very interesting movie if you ever get a chance to see it. So let's get to a quick bio of the Invaders and I will give credit to this gentleman. Let me just
With the combined efforts of creator Larry Cohen, a highly imaginative man who was growing tired of television and on the verge of pouring his talents into low-budget horror films, and producer Quinn Martin, a serious man who was the leading force behind a number of 60s television shows which were formula-driven but very well produced police and detective dramas. He would have enormous success with the series The Fugitive, and with the series coming to an end in 1967, he needed a fresh new idea for a TV series. Larry Cohen would be the perfect working partner of producer Quinn Martin. Cohen would sketch out the basics of what would become The Invaders, which was inspired heavily by the 50s science fiction films like Invaders from Mars, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and the British film Quatermass 2. All these films were a part of a string of doppelganger movies, usually about aliens living among us in the form of humans who are planning to take over the world.
Well, I had always wanted to do that particular show, and that was basically
Larry Cohen.
Inspired, I guess, by the Invasion of the Body Snatchers idea, concept, which I had seen when it came out as a B movie, obscurely played in New York many, many years ago, and the idea of aliens on Earth in human form, I thought would be a good format for a television program. And also, I'd been writing The Defenders and was very involved in political drama. And it seemed to me that using aliens who had infiltrated our society was a way of dramatizing the fixation of communist infiltration of the United States and the paranoia that was spreading across the country and was just coming to an end about communists everywhere in the government and everywhere in show business and in the motion picture industry. And we could somehow treat that in television by doing a show like The Invaders.
For The Invaders, producer Quinn Martin wanted a somewhat simple premise that would keep our hero, David Vincent, moving around, having to explain to authorities and institutions with great difficulty of the alien conspiracy and plan of taking over Earth right under our noses. Cohen said his original concept was to do The Invaders as a twice-a-week serial, something which the network borrowed from Cohen and ended up doing with Batman. He said his original idea was to take 2 segments a week and have a cliffhanger in the middle. When Cohen was given the go-ahead, he sketched out the basics of what became The Invaders. He created the protagonist, David Vincent, an architect who is driving home after a long day and gets tired and parks beside a deserted diner and witnesses a UFO landing. He tries to warn the public of the alien danger, but is seen as both paranoid and crazy. With his credibility ruined, he quits his job with the architectural firm and goes on the road, making it his mission to warn people of the alien plot to take over the world. Vincent is ridiculed, but keeps going on and gains some hope in the form of contacts in the press and the military, who are skeptical but agree to investigate any evidence that he can produce of the aliens' evil plan. Larry Cohen's basic plot used the Alfred Hitchcock formula, which added a great amount of suspense, with an everyman character we can all identify with, in the same way we could all identify with the everyman characters in Hitchcock films, even grabbing some plot elements and ideas from the Quinn Martin production of The Fugitive, featuring a wrongly convicted man on death row who escapes to search for his wife's killer. Cohen approached the ABC network and pitched his idea. He decided to pitch the idea as a different kind of soap opera, a hard-edged variant on the melodramatic and popular show Peyton Place, which was an early primetime serial that ABC launched in 1964. According to Cohen, Douglas S. Kramer would warm immediately to the Invaders concept and story. Cohen said, "I was commissioned by them to write the pilot as a half hour, and then I wrote about 15 storylines for future episodes of the series." Throughout the series, the Invaders' planet and origin was never revealed. Cohen said they were very intelligent and very hard to kill, and very devious about hiding their identities and subverting themselves within the system. In the episode The Enemy, the dying mutated alien, played by actor Richard Anderson, reverts to his true alien appearance, unless the aliens receive treatments in what Vincent calls regeneration chambers. If they don't regenerate, they revert to their true alien form. The effect that was used when they die is a glowing red effect. After this, they would disappear and leave traces of black ash. On a few different occasions, a dying alien would touch a piece of their technology to prevent it from falling into the hands of the humans. The aliens would use a small handheld disc-shaped weapon
The death disc.
with 5 glowing white lights applied to the back of the victim's head or neck to induce a natural death. They also employ powerful weapons to disintegrate witnesses and vehicles. The only way to tell the invaders apart from the humans if their pinky finger was sticking out and bent at an angle. But by the end of the second season, the aliens do away with this defect. The aliens are usually emotionless, but some of the mutant aliens can show some emotions, similar to humans, and are even opposed to taking over the world. The aliens also have no pulse or heartbeat, and they don't bleed. The flying
That's right. I
saucer
didn't mention
design
that. They
was
don't bleed when
influenced
they're
and
cut. They're a
inspired
cool
by
effect.
2 UFO photographs. The first case happened in 1965 in Santa Ana, California. On August the 3rd, the highway traffic engineer Rex Heflin took several pictures of a flying craft while working near the Santa Ana freeway. Heflin did not report his sighting, but the photographs were published by the Santa Ana Register on September the 20th, 1965. The second was the Adamski case. On December the 13th of 1952, in Palomar Gardens, California, George Adamski took a series of photographs through his telescope of a bell-shaped craft, today well known as the Adamski Scout Ship. For the invaders, a full-size UFO was never built. The saucer was a miniature, which was optically printed into the sky whenever it was shown flying. A full-size set that represented the landing legs was built for the long shots of people approaching the landing saucer. For these shots, the miniature was matted over the landing legs. Characters could even be shown climbing up into the UFO in tight shots of the land legs set. Apparently, the control room within the saucer was a semi-permanent set. The other areas within the ship changed in various episodes. For the main lead in the show, Roy Finnis was cast as David Vincent. Finnis was a member of Quinn Martin's stock company, appearing in a number of shows like The Untouchables, 12 O'Clock High, The FBI, and The Fugitive. He would appear in all 43 episodes of The Invaders. The show would feature many A-grade actors, including Diana Baker, Michael Rennie,
Diane
Suzanne
Baker.
Plachette, Dabney
Not
Coleman,
Diana.
Anne Francis, Roddy McDowell, Karen Black, and Gene Hackman, to name a few. The show would definitely draw in the talent. Roy Finnis worked extremely hard on the show. He was beginning to feel exhausted from the grueling work schedule, and in one episode, The Spores, he doesn't have as much screen time and relied more on the episode's co-star. The show ran for just 2 seasons on the ABC network from 1967 to 1968. Every episode would have the mysterious opening with the distinctive narration by William Woodson, who was known for doing voices and narration for a number of shows, including the animated DC show Super Friends, the Marvel animated series Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and the opening narration of the animated series Battle of the Planets. In the opening of every episode, we
And
could
The Odd
never
Couple.
forget who the producer was, because the opening narrator, Woodson, would utter the words,
A Quinn Martin production.
so we would know it was going to be a quality show, and the guest stars of each episode would be announced.
The guest stars in tonight's story: John Larch, Carol Ross, Frank Overton.
And the show's episode title would be announced also.
Tonight's episode: Genesis.
Quinn Martin's greatest strength as a producer was his devotion to production values. Martin would pay higher salaries to guest stars, and he would often recruit performers who rarely did television, and he shot on location extensively. He demanded quality, and when it was night, he would shoot at night. Quinn Martin's trademark seriousness was the final ingredient needed to make The Invaders a classic. It grounded the series in reality that made the show genuinely spooky, and the show had its own style, which made the show different from every other science fiction TV show.
I met with Mr. Martin, and he was so impressive. He had writers present. They were having a writers' conference, in fact, and no one had ever invited me to a writers' conference. And they were talking about the concept, and Quinn Martin said, I don't want a lot of special effects. I don't want to. He said, this is a study in paranoia. And now he's talking to me, the actor. I think, okay, that I can get behind, not just chase movies. But, well, the picture painted there between the writers and Quinn Martin was of this wonderful adventure series, and with minimal silliness, because there were a few corny sci-fi shows on the air at the time.
The Invaders would make its debut on January the 10th, 1967, and was highly successful with high ratings. Reviews for the series were mixed, but were mostly positive. Variety said about the show, this kind of pulp fiction you just have to accept and enjoy for its profound innocence. Other reviews tended to be critical of the show, saying it was more fiction than science. The series also had great success in South America, Germany, and was very popular in Spain and the UK. Gold Key Comics published 4 issues of
Hold
an
it,
Invaders
France is
comic
still
book
popular.
before Marvel published an unrelated Invaders superhero series. Mad Magazine even released a TV satire of the Invaders on June of 1968, titled The InVadeRs. The thrilling but jarring music of the Invaders was composed by Dominic Frontier, who also provided music for the classic series, The Outer Limits, and the theme music for The Invaders was originally heard in the Outer Limits episode The Form of Things Unknown in 1964. Several seconds of footage from the opening sequence of the flying saucer approaching Earth from space was used in the opening of the series The Fantastic Journey in the episode The Innocent Prey, which aired on June the 6th, 1977. The pilot episode of The Invaders, titled Beachhead, was remade in 1977 for another Quinn Martin series called Quinn Martin's Tales of the Unexpected. Creator Larry Cohen found out he owned 50% of the film rights of The Invaders. ABC sold their 50% to Carolco Pictures. Cohen would also sell his 50% to Carolco. Carolco unfortunately went bankrupt and sold the rights to Warner Brothers. A film version was supposed to be made and produced by Joel Silver, but that never happened. In 1995, The Invaders was turned into a 4-hour-long television miniseries remake titled The Invaders on Fox. In the miniseries, Scott Bakula starred as Nolan Wood, who discovers the alien conspiracy, and Roy Finnis, very briefly, would make an appearance as David Vincent. The Invaders inspired and influenced Chris Carter for his series The X-Files, which owed a lot to The Invaders. He paid deliberate homage to the show by casting Roy Finnis in 3 X-Files episodes titled Telifa, Kumi, Herrenvolk, and This Is Not Happening. Finnis played the character Jeremiah Smith, a mysterious extraterrestrial who has the power to heal. There were many other shows influenced by The Invaders. Thinking about The Invaders now, I can still hear that mysterious, jarring soundtrack in my head. My name's Jonathan. Thanks for watching.
So that on YouTube, if you want to see the images, and a lot of those images are things that I showed tonight from my personal collection, it's called Classic TV, The Invaders by Johnny, spelled JONNYBAAK. That's his YouTube channel. So Roy Finnis is one of my favorite actors, and he also was in a Battlestar Galactica episode filmed in 1978, a 2-parter called The Gun on Ice Planet Zero, where he played a criminal, and he had a big scar across his face. Obviously, it was makeup, and he had longer hair, kind of a mullet, a totally different look. And I really enjoy that episode. And Roy Finnis is an underrated actor, and a lot of complaints about The Invaders is that it had a lack of humor. Didn't have any humor, and Roy Finnis doesn't know how to smile, but there were a few episodes where he did smile. So, you know, people, these critics usually will watch like the pilot episode and then judge the entire series based on that. And there's something called character development that occurs down the line that's never and seldom taken into account. So I'm going to wrap. It's been real. It's been a challenge for me to produce this show today by myself because I've had all sorts of issues with my board that I've now corrected. I may have to redo this on my Facebook page. Anyone out there that watched, I really appreciate it. I know Danny called in earlier, and I don't know if his call could be heard or not. Got a call coming in before I sign off. Wouldn't you know it? The Nostalgic Podblast. Who is this? How are you? Hey, Michael. Is this Michael Hopkins?
It is.
What's going on? Thanks for tuning in. How are you?
I'm fine. I just wanted to point out that a lot of and I came in at the tail end, but I wanted to point out that a lot of the guest stars that were on The Fugitive ended up on The Invaders, including the Diana Hyland, when she last week was on an episode.
Yeah, Diana Hyland. She was in several episodes of
of oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm not rapping, of The Fugitive, and she was in a two-parter of The Invaders that I have on film called Summit Meeting Part 1 and 2 with Michael Rennie, and she was in a great episode opposite Jack Lord. She played Jack Lord's wife in an episode called Vicar that I talked about earlier, and you're right, she was in When the Bow Breaks on The Fugitive, and she was John Travolta's lover, and she was the original mom on Eight Is Enough.
That out, but you.
Yeah. I'm
Did
sorry.
You already mentioned that?
No, I've mentioned it in another Podblast, but not everyone watches every one. So continue if you want to talk about that.
You just gave it away. No, I was going to mention that, but that's okay.
Well, you can mention how they met. Do you know how they met?
I don't know how they met. I just know she was considerably older than he was, and I believe she was 41 years of age when she passed away.
Correct. And they met on the set of The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, a TV movie. That's another topic I'm going to cover down the line. TV miniseries that were notable and TV movies that were notable. And I think Boy in the Plastic Bubble was certainly notable. And reportedly, according to John Travolta, articles I read, she sadly died in his arms of cancer in the 1970s. And she was replaced, of course, on Eight Is Enough by the character Abby. But she was the mother on Eight Is Enough. She was acting in that show when she passed away as Joan Bradford. That was it. Joan Bradford, her character.
I saw The Boy in the Plastic Bubble when it aired the first run on television.
Wow, I did too. I was a little kid. I remember it. They did a parody of it. It was aired on Comedy Central. It was terrible. It was just a comedy remake parody of that in like 1998 or something. Hang on, I'm gonna look up Diana Hyland to give you the date. It was 77, March 27th, 1977. She passed away. Yes. And you said she was 41 years of age. Wow. And she was a beautiful lady. And she was in a great Fugitive, a color episode called The Devil's Disciples, where she was in a motorcycle gang. And that was the name of the motorcycle gang. And she played a good character. But anyway, and have you seen her Invaders episode, Vicar, the first one she did? VIKOR?
I'm not sure. I don't get to watch the Invaders that much because MeTV during their time moved it to, what is it, 5 in the morning.
That's correct. From midnight to 5 a.m. Saturday into Sunday morning. Unreal.
Bad move on their part.
Yeah, they moved it. Originally, they replaced it with Kolchak the Night Stalker, which has a limited amount of episodes anyway, even on a weekly basis.
Yeah, well, I wish they would move it back. I mean, there's always DVR, but it's nice just to be able to call it up.
And, they do edit them. Some of the episodes are old World Vision syndicated prints from 1992 that Sci-Fi Channel aired that are time compressed and sped up. It's good and bad. It's good because that means they don't have to cut as much out to air commercials, but it's bad because the sound is distorted. The music's distorted. The actors' voices are distorted. But I noticed MeTV also runs some that aren't in that batch, but then more's cut out, and it's just a shame. But I love MeTV. I'm not knocking it, but it is streaming on Apple TV. I don't know if you have Apple TV, but you can find The Invaders there. And of course, CBS Paramount released every episode on DVD, uncut, along with the extended version of the pilot, which MeTV has yet to air. And that is the far superior version of the first episode and pilot. You want to see the extended. There's so many great scenes that were cut from the aired version.
I was going to ask you, does the DVD have a much better print as far as color? Because I noticed that just looked really like, back in the day when they didn't have really good, I guess it was maybe they weren't using videotape all the time. They were using, like for I Dream of Jeannie and the Brady Bunch, it just seemed like the color was faded on some of those series. And it kind of reminds me of that before they got to where they could perfect the digital duplication for syndication.
Excellent point. And you're correct. They would use film prints from 16 millimeter that were time compressed. They hadn't gone back to the 35 millimeter negatives yet. Yes, the DVDs are cleaned up. They're gorgeous. And they were done under Aaron Spelling's company. Spelling Entertainment took over it, and you'll see their credit a superimposed new credit during the end credits at the very end of the end credits of the Invaders episodes on DVD, and probably the ones that stream.
Yeah. Now, wasn't he connected with World Vision at some point?
That's right, a spelling company, not to be confused, and they would have that disclaimer with the religious organization World Vision. I think it was a hunger relief organization.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're right. That's how he came into play, Aaron Spelling. And yeah, they looked fantastic on DVD. I should, for maybe I'll do a contest because you won. Well, usually when people win, I don't like them to be eligible. I'll just get you, since you're a pal of the show. I'll just get you a set. I remember I gave Pete Davis a set. He's an on-air person, or used to be. And I gave him a set of Invaders. I gave Al Hardy a set of the Invaders on DVD. I should give you one too. And I'll do a con. I'll do a give.
I'd love to be able to watch them, uncut. But
can you play DVD though? Do you have a DVD and Blu-ray player?
Oh, yeah.
Blu-ray will play it too.
Well, the Blu-ray players will play DVD anyway. But I've actually got a DVD carousel down in my den. It holds 5 DVDs, and my Blu-ray player will also play DVDs.
They will, and they'll enhance them a little bit. It's best to watch them out of a Blu-ray player than a DVD player.
Yeah. So no, I can watch it both ways. But sometimes, like, I'll watch Dark Shadows on the DVD player, because if I put it in that DVD carousel, it will actually stretch out the picture, not too much to distort it, but it'll, instead of just being the square.
Right. Cool. Well, I'll have to get you a set, and I'll do a giveaway to people in the audience that want to discover the Invaders. And there's so many more great guest stars, like Murray Hamilton. Didn't mention him, who went on to be in Jaws, of course, as the mayor. He's in a great Invaders episode, The Condemned, which was the last one that aired as season 1, but it actually was produced in the middle of season 1. And he was in Fugitive as well, Murray Hamilton. He was in Moonchild, I mentioned in the Fugitive portion of tonight's show. Anyway. But dude, I had terrible audio problems. Operator error, my fault. Like, people called in and you couldn't hear the call, and people were saying, I can't hear the clips were too hot, too loud versus my mic. But now it's fine, but too little too late. I may redo the Fugitive portion. I'm going to have to play this back and see how it sounds.
Yeah, I understand. But one more thing I've observed, that MeTV, and I don't know why they did this, because I always look forward. I have all of the sets of the DVD, and in fact, I actually got, I have 2, I think it's season 2, because there was an outcry because of the music rights or whatever, and they redid them, and Paramount allowed you, if you could prove that you purchased the DVD set of that season, they would replace it with them. So I've actually got 2 sets of one of the seasons, but I always look forward to when they run the color episodes. And I noticed that on MeTV, they went all the way up to the end of season 3, and then they started back on season 3 again. They didn't go to the color episodes, which I don't understand.
Well, in a cycle back in 2013, they did. I still have some of my DVR, believe it or not, in color.
No, I mean, I know they've shown the color ones before,
right?
So I really I'm at a loss as to why they would go back. And I mean, at that point, why not just go to the beginning of season 1? Why would you repeat a season that you just basically, with them, that's not 5 nights a week; it's once a week, but still.
That's crazy.
Wonder what was going through their mind when they decided to do it.
I don't know. It's obviously it's a mistake, is what it is. And they also messed up. You're talking about those old prints of the Invaders. This is kind of interesting, at least to me, because I'm a music nerd. The episode The Watchers with guest star Shirley Knight. There was in the end credits a unique version of the end credits theme that never aired in any other episode. And the version that aired on the Sci-Fi Channel and is currently airing on MeTV, the syndicator put the end credits to an entirely different episode, The Enemy, with Richard Anderson reverts to a true alien form. And it's just the standard version of the end credits for season 2, not that unique version just that was in The Watcher. So that was the only episode that had a screw up like that. And boy, unfortunate for music nerds like me because it was a cool, different kind of version of the end credits theme that was unique to that one episode. And the distributor screwed it up. It's correct on the DVDs, but it's screwed up on MeTV because of that old 1992 print the Sci-Fi Channel aired from World Vision.
And I've heard an archived of the I think it was you played it on the Nostalgic Podblast before you started doing video. I seem to remember hearing that played.
That version?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably did.
I know I've heard it, and I'm almost certain it was on your show.
Well, it's cool. Hopefully someone will know what I'm talking about. I sound like a real nerd here, which I am, but I don't care. I embrace my nerd.
I remember hearing you play it.
Yeah, because like what was unique about it was, you know, at the end, at the beginning of an act of the Invaders, I like that rip effect. And they started that with the episode Genesis. The first 4 episodes didn't have like that rip effect. And that came from The Unknown, which was a spinoff attempt from The Outer Limits that we've talked about. Not only did they take the music, they took some of the narration, the dialogue about lonely country roads, blah, blah, blah. But there was a rip effect in the titles of The Unknown, and the Invaders adopted that eventually. Point being, you remember how it would come back from an act of the Invader from a commercial break, and it would go, da, na, da. Well, that little da, na, da started the end credits of The Watchers, and no other episode. It was just weird. And then it would go into the end titles. It was kind of cool how it was edited. And it was a new orchestration by Dwayne Tatro, I think is his name, how you pronounce it, the composer. But it was just a cool version of the end title theme. Too bad that MeTV has a screwed up print of it, of The Watchers with the end credits from The Enemy. It even shows the actors in The Enemy. You know, it's so obvious it's a mistake. It has the wrong actors credited in the end credits. All right, I've gone on and on about that.
Well, I know you're trying to wrap up, so I'll say good night. And but I enjoyed. I was on here for I guess about 25 minutes.
Well, thank you for listening. And
yeah, sure.
And
I didn't want to call in because it was like you went from one segment to another, and then I heard Barry call in. Sounds like he's coming back from one of his trips.
Yes. He's a night owl with his job. He's working, you know, and he works at night. So yes, he was driving back and he called in. And like I said, I may have to redo the Fugitive portion, and maybe you can tune in for that at a decent hour. I'll have to do that. And I haven't decided if I'm doing a July 4th Podblast or not. Because I do have plans, and you know, no one's going to be wanting to watch the Podblast on the 4th of July on our patriotic holiday, at least if you're in the United States of America. So I don't know. I may do it on Saturday this week and do a 4th of July themed Podblast with 4th of July music and movies and some notable clips and speeches and things. And I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
But I will be on Barry's show. If you listen,
if you just send me a text, I'll hop on.
cool. Well, but listen to Barry's show and Alan Sanders' show if you can Saturday morning if you're up and about.
Absolutely.
I'll be there with them in studio. Looking forward to that Saturday morning, 10 a.m. till noon with Barry King and Alan Sanders. BK on the air. I'm holding up. I don't know if you're watching. I'm holding up these.
Interesting show.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm holding up a prop from The Fugitive. These handcuffs. I don't know if you can see. It may not have caught up because there's a bit of a delay. But these are prop handcuffs from the TV show The Fugitive, where Dr. Richard Kimball was handcuffed to Shirley Knight, who played a lady policeman.
Are those the handcuffs?
Yeah.
How did you get them?
Ancient Chinese secret. I can't.
Okay, Calgon.
Calgon, take me away. I can't. Yeah, you're knowledgeable. I like that. But yeah, man, we'll talk about it. I'm going to reveal that when I redo The Fugitive. I'm going to review the audio probably tomorrow. I'm going to turn in a little bit, but I'll review the audio if it's as bad as I heard it was, and if it was as inconsistent as I heard it was with the levels where the clips are hot and you can't hear me, you can't hear the calls. I may redo it, and I'll tell that story.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, send me a text, and if I'm around, I've got a busy weekend. But depending on when you do the redoing of the Fugitive part, you know, if I'm in the house, I will certainly tune in and call in.
Well, I appreciate you being out there, man. I mean, man, we're trying to grow this show, and every listener helps, and you're a good friend of the show. And I promise you, I'll get you a set of the Invaders just as soon as possible.
Forward to it. I'll drive over to Marietta to pick them up.
Okay.
I would definitely be up for that. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I like anyone that likes the Invaders because that's one of my favorite shows. I don't have a one-track mind. Like Al used to joke, all you like is Lost in Space and Fall Guy. And I mean, it's kind of funny joke, but no, I like a bunch of diverse things, new and old, but the Invaders has a special place in my heart. And so I'm happy to share that with someone else who's as passionate about that show as I am.
Yeah, and maybe somehow, some way, at some point, you can get Roy. Is it Thinnis or Tennis?
Thinnis, Roy Thinnis. It says in the end credits, David Vincent. Wait. Starring Roy Thinnis as architect David Vincent. That was Dick Wesson who did that who announced the episode title and the guest stars, different from William Woodson.
Voice because he did a lot of the Disney. He would do things for Disney, and he had a very distinct voice.
That's right. He did. And he did all the Quinn Martin shows of the 60s. He introduced the guest stars Fugitive, Invaders, I think Dan August. I think, not sure about Untouchables. I need to do my homework on that. Trying to remember. He might have done Untouchables, but he was great. Dick Wesson, like Wesson Oil, like Florence Henderson used to endorse in the 70s when we were kids.
She had that Wessonality.
Yes, she did. Not in a oily used car salesman kind of way, but in a good way.
Okay, well, you take care. Good show, and I will talk with you soon, I'm sure.
All right, and remember, we're on Fistful of Radio. We're still going to be on Fistful of Radio Saturdays and Sundays, 2 to 5, and then BK in the air right after us. But live is always best, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for calling. Have a good night, Michael.
All right, bye.
All right. That's Mr. Michael Hopkins, and he lives in the Georgia area, as I do. And he's a great fan of all local media, radio and television, and just a nice person. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met, actually. So going to sign off. I want to thank Barry King for calling in. I want to thank Danny for calling in, Danny Cochran. And I'm sorry if the audio was low on that call. I just have to redo it because he had some great points about the Fugitive movie starring Harrison Ford. So I guess I'm going to sign off, and if I have to redo this, I'm probably going to do it Saturday. I'll just do it Saturday because I've got plans 4th of July. I'll make that call right now. I'm not going to pod blast on Sunday, but I will be with Barry and Alan, BK in the air on Saturday. Repeating myself, so I'm going to say good night, and thanks for listening to the Nostalgic Podblast Flashback. 4.1 Fugitive and 4.2 Invaders on YouTube. Good night.